everyone. Welcome to another DCU Daily. To end the week, we are here to talk about all things DC, all things news, and anything in between. Obviously, we have another show going on after this. We're going to have our Fancast Friday, don't you worry. But today, we are going to, obviously right now, dealing with DCU Daily. First, the news. Obviously, we have a ton of news to get into first. The first things is obviously box office projections, as well as what's happened on Thursday, as well as what's been going on in the previous couple weeks and what's set for the future. So, bit of both in regards to projections and the past. Then, of course, Movie Talk Madness. The biggest thing being the official announcement that Kathleen Kennedy will be leaving Lucasfilm, and the people replacing her seems to have fans in a tizzy for the better. So we will be talking about that in addition to our review of 28 years later, The Bone Temple, the second film in the 28 Years Later trilogy directed by Nia DaCosta, and the fourth film in the 28 blank later franchise. We'll be talking about that, as well as MCU Weekly, a lot of Avengers Doomsday news in regards to official talks and rumors, because, you know, we love our rumors here and we love to talk about them no matter how dumb they might be. And then, of course, more about the Warner Brothers Discovery bidding war. Ted Sarandos clarifies his statements in regards to what Netflix plan will be for Warner Brothers on, and whether or not people should be worried or not. And, you know, obviously we're going to be talking about the Netflix side of things with that, but then we're going to be talking about the Paramount side of things with David Ellison having the world's biggest temper tantrum because the rich man was never told no as a child. So we're going to be talking about that in addition to maybe this is a history doomed to repeat itself thing. So we're going to be getting into a little bit of that. And then, of course, our quick hits, a lot of HBO news, a lot of casting news, and anything in between. And then, of course, we have DCU Daily. We're going to be talking about a lot of DC quick hits, but then, of course, a little bit of what did Gunn say and all of that. But before I go on a little bit too long in regards to our preview, let's get into the show with this wonderful little intro. So see you soon, and we will begin to talk about the news.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always the number two.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Here we are talking about the news. I'm your host, John, because of course I am. Hello, wonderful to see you all. But before we get into it, we also have Dan here. Dan, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, Dan? Are you ready to end the week after possibly a very busy week, or not a busy week at all? I don't know. I don't know your life, whatever it is.
No, it's been busy, very busy. I'm glad that we're here doing a Friday night DCU Daily. Of course, a lot of Marvel stuff to talk about. It couldn't be a busier Friday. I'm sure you guys have seen from Lucasfilm news dropping over the week. We got a Kratos, everybody. We have a Kratos for God of War, and somebody who's actually played him before. So, yeah, we got so much to get into, and of course, beyond that, I got Darkseid in the DCU. Not only is Mr. Miracle canon, but they already cast a Darkseid. God, and James Gunn did say that it's very different take from what Zack Snyder did because he said Zack Snyder did it in his really cool way. Again, Gunn and Snyder are friends, people. World peace already happened. Anyway, but John, there's so much to get into, like you said. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We already had some super chats coming in earlier. While we were waiting to get going. Actually, and I apologize for the late start because I was the one who was having some technical difficulties. My audio seemed to not be working, then my camera would not work. But hey, sometimes technology be technologying as it goes. John, it's like we weren't live for a couple of days, and it just happens to be a really busy time at the news.
Well, yes, of course. But hopefully we can get the 2 shows in before it gets 5 in the morning. So
Well, I certainly hope for that too. Monique is in the live chat. Hello, Monique. First in. Ribeye steak burritos in the house. Damn, again, always. I just warmed up some fish. Like, that's all I got to work. I mean, it's not like it's better than what I would have made. It's my mom made it, and I had it sitting around for a while in the freezer. I didn't leave it out.
Mike's, so but that was good.
Hello, Tony. Jersey Mike sounds amazing. And Acres of Movies, Stacy is here. Of course, just some geeky guy already talking about the Bone Temple. We're going to bring that super chat back in when we get to the Bone Temple review. And then just some geeky guy, another super chat. Dance off, bro. Oh, you know what? We don't know the identity of who the cast is, Mr. Miracle, but I totally would love to see Chris Pratt. I think he's too big now. Maybe if he was just coming off Andy Dwyer, then he could be it, but he already did that. So and the Enterprising is here. It is an exciting time to be a DC fan, and we are also so freaking stoked about Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and Orion. Dude, it might be Big Barda after all in Man of Tomorrow, because the one we got there is canon to the DC.
Dan might have Oh, there he goes. Okay. So.
Oh, I'm back. Where did I go?
Are you okay?
I'm back.
I thought you went out for a second. Okay.
I think I did, but now I'm back. I was saying the lovely, beautiful Fiona, the moderator Fiona's in the chat. Hello, beautiful. Hello, beautiful to you, Fiona. Of course. I'm sure that's meant for me, not John. But John is also a handsome gentleman himself. Let's see what else. Christopher Judge's Darkseid. You know what? You are pressing my buttons, my friend, because as a fan of Teal'c, all I gotta say to that is indeed. Anyway, yeah, I did freeze. You know what? Everybody's internet's going down. Verizon's internet's going down. X went down. Like, my work internet went down. Fiona's work internet keeps going down. John is a king. That's right. John is a king.
I'm a short king, but that's about as far as I go.
Can Kratos be a short king? Christopher Judge, what are you talking about? Christopher Judge is like one of the most iconic voices. Okay, sorry, go ahead, John. You were gonna say something.
Well, I mean, the thing is with Kratos is that his skin is like grayish white, so like having Christopher Judge also be live action Kratos might look a bit weird. I'm not saying it's like White Chicks levels of bad, but I think it would be a little bit awkward having him like be having gray or very white skin. I don't know. I think it would just.
Well, no. I don't know. I wasn't gonna say they wouldn't do that. I would imagine if they went in that direction, it would be like he's just gonna be himself, like his natural skin.
But they didn't go with that anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, exactly. But you know what though? I would love to see Christopher Judge back, not back, but like in the DCU. In the Darkseid, in the 10 minutes he was in the Snyder Cut was better than the MCU Thanos.
I mean, that's not saying much. That's not saying much.
Okay. Here's what I will say: that it was great. He was great, and that's actually while that is a hot take for a lot of people, is not as hot for me, like you said, John, because I think Thanos is probably one of the best villains Marvel has put together because of how well-rounded he was. That's my opinion. And the animation and the performance capture was also top-notch. Clearly, they put a lot of work into the character. Less so the version of the character that we get in Endgame, but that's also more of a writing problem, not the technical execution. I think Josh Brolin did a great job. But yes, it's hard to compare the two because you get so little of Darkseid. Like, you don't get to see as much of like who he is as a character, more than just the surface level dimensions that we are all aware of Darkseid from the comics, or those of us who are.
I do have a
Anyway.
bit to talk about in regards to Darkseid on what that could like mean for the DCU, but obviously we'll get there when we get there.
We'll get to that. And then Mr. NYC, that was a long time ago, but you know what? We will talk about RDJ today.
The whole it was
Hey, figure drawing.
satire. It was satire. Oh my god, guys. Okay.
It was satire. It was come
satire.
on, that's you missed the whole point of Tropic Thunder if
That's
you thought
the
that
whole
was
fucking
yeah.
point. Like, bruh.
But you know what? Before we keep getting sidetracked any further, because there'll be plenty of hot takes as we get on with the show.
The best performance of Darkseid is Weird Al Yankovic in Teen Titans Go, and I will die on that hill.
Speaking of dying on hills, John, let's talk about the box office. And
because it's dying? Yeah. No, that's a good segue.
I figured somehow that will connect the dots, that is. But hey, 28 years later, The Bone Temple and Avatar Fire and Ash, they are fighting for the number one spot this weekend. Remember, John, going into the weekend, we were looking at potentially, again, this is only Friday night, so we don't quite know yet, but we will probably have a better idea in a couple of days, and certainly by the time we get to the Monday show, the MLK Day Junior Day show, Martin Luther King Day, which is a federal holiday in the U.S. But before then, we're still kind of guessing, because earlier in the week we were looking at numbers and projections. At 28 years later, the latest 28 years later, The Bone Temple was set to dethrone Avatar Fire and Ash from the top spot at the box office weekend. Having led the weekend for 4 weeks in a row, it would not, according to earlier projections, make it out of its 5th weekend at the top. And that would break the streak of the first 2 movies going 7 weeks in a row at the top. Then again, I don't think another movie of that caliber, of like the Bone Temple caliber in terms of popularity and earning potential, has come out in any of those years that the previous 2 Avatar movies came out. So maybe it's just more competition, But nonetheless, John, it looks like now that we are in the weekend, Friday going into Saturday, the Bone Temple and Avatar are having quite the showdown. I mean, and Marty Supreme also. I mean, it crossed $100 million. We have talked about that during the week, and now it's become the highest grossing A24 movie at the domestic box office. That's significant. If you can scroll down a little bit, I just want to kind of mention the numbers that they're expecting right now for the 2 movies at the top. Both Avatar and 28 Years Later are expected to do somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 million over what would be considered a 4-day holiday weekend that counts Monday, the MLK Day, as that 4th day. John, you look at this, and if you can scroll back up to the top, the headline here, of course, is the fight between the Bone Temple and Avatar. Who do you think is going to come out on top? Of course, The Lion King, Mufasa the Lion King, a year ago, in his 5th weekend, made around 15 million. I forget if it was number 1 or not, but here we are, both Avatar and Bone Temple. Bone Temple just coming out, Avatar in its 5th week, and then you got Marty Supreme just continuing to make money. Your reaction to the Marty Supreme stuff, because we're going to talk more about that too as the show goes on, and then of course, which movie are you betting on to win the weekend?
I mean, I think, because the thing is, 20 Years Later is an IP, it's a sequel, and the thing is, the movie came out less than a year ago, and, I think a lot of people are excited for that, and my theater, despite being in like middle of the afternoon, I wouldn't say it was filled to the brim, but it had a good amount of people, considering it, Friday in the afternoon, and people were still at work and that kind of thing. So I think that shows that there's a good amount of people. The Avatar stuff has been dwindling, so I think Bone Temple is going to be number 1, Fire and Ash is going to be number 2, and then, everything else. But it's just like, people like to see the newer movies rather than movies that have been in the theater for a while. So I think Bone Temple is going to overtake Fire and Ash, because, I don't know, I feel like that makes sense.
Yeah, look, it's, to me, at this point, one movie's on the ascendancy, and the other one's kind of on, descending downward. And of course, I'm talking about 28 Years Later just coming out. You got momentum behind it. The reviews are pretty good. Hello Movie Spud, and then hello M2G. Thank you for tuning in. M2G already calling it for the Bone Temple. For Marty Supreme, do you think this added box office momentum is only going to continue to make it more and more likely that Timothée Chalamet, continues winning those Best Actor awards? Because of course, we don't currently have the final nominees for the Oscars yet. They will be here in less than 2 weeks' time. January 27th is when they announce them. And then we keep talking about it. In the award season, it's all about momentum. And so far, Marty Supreme has earned, Timothée Chalamet pretty much the best acting award across every major award that's happened, so which is not many, but like the Golden Globes, for example, the Actors Award awards are going to be happening in a bit. Like next month, you're going to have the DGA, the PGA. Do you think now that this movie is doing really well and even more people are going to see it, as it's breaking A24 records, do you think Marty Supreme has got enough of that momentum for Timothée Chalamet to basically lock in the Best Actor award at the Oscars?
I don't know if it'll be locked in. It's a pretty damn good race in terms of a lot of people, but like, we'll have to see on what some other award shows that haven't happened yet are gonna say. I know Golden Globes is pretty telling, but I think maybe wait for a few more and then see what happens. But I hope so, because I think Marty Supreme is definitely kind of a bit like, ironically, considering the the movie's plot, he is a bit of an underdog, and I think because One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Sinners, those are kind of like the big head honchos because they've been around a while, because they came out months ago, while you know Marty Supreme hasn't even been in theaters for a month yet. So, well, at least wide release theaters. So he's kind of a bit of, because not a lot of people know who he is, like know what the movie is, I should say, and I think that that's pretty. That's kind of an underdog thing, if I do say so myself. So
I mean, what I would say to that is you're right, but also at the same time, the recency bias factor is not really there for Marty Supreme, right? Because like exactly what you just said, Marty Supreme doesn't have to worry about this whole situation, like everything that we mentioned for Sinners, for I mean 20 and not 20 what am I thinking of? One Battle After Another has been around long enough, but not too long because it came out in the fall months. Like if you look at all the front runners for the Best Picture at the Oscar and all the big awards, I think outside of Sinners, pretty much everything else has come out sort of on the back half of the year. So yeah, I mean, whether Marty Supreme insists upon itself or not, figure drawing. I mean, Timothée Chalamet, isn't he closer to 30? What is he, 20? Timothée Chalamet got to be older than 25. But anyway, like the guy is like, yeah, he's not even like 35 yet. And well, again, I mean, well, he's 30. Okay, there you go. He's 30. He was born in 95. But yeah, well, I personally am not
I
his
think
biggest
maybe
fan,
he means Timothy is deserving for the 2025 year.
Okay,
Maybe
I
that's the
see.
only thing
I
could
see
think
what you. Maybe I misread it. Okay, all right, MTG, I hear you. So yeah, I mean, Timothée Chalamet, yeah, he's the front runner at this point, and the fact that the movie's making more money and continues to. I mean, it's an indie film, but the fact that and it started off with only a few theaters and it just kept on expanding. By the way, we got Steven in the chat. Hello, Steven. Keep it up, keep it up. But John, we have a few. We actually beyond just this weekend at the box office, we were talking about the biggest movies that are coming out and they're already in theaters, like Avatar. We actually had a Lord of the Rings movie make a return. That's right. The Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Lord of the Rings returned.
And it's not just one; it's the whole trilogy, guys. The Lord of the Rings trilogy returned to theaters.
Extended editions, because that's the thing that matters.
Actually, is it? That's a good question. Let's scroll down and look at it, because it's already earned $5 million in box office pre-sales. This is the 25th anniversary, so this isn't something that's already happened. The tickets have been bought, and that's pretty insane, John. The fact that they've already sold $5 million worth of tickets for domestic pre-sales. That's about 407,000 tickets that they're talking about here in Variety. Now, of course, how this is going to work, if you guys are interested in this, the show times for the three films are going to be Fellowship of the Ring, which is going to play on January 16th, so that is today. If you got a chance to check it out, if you're in the West Coast, you may still have some time to catch a screening. And then The Two Towers, happening tomorrow, January 17th, and then finish out your weekend January 18th with Return of the King. But before all of that happened, this Fathom Entertainment event, like, John, that's kind of crazy. That's 65% ahead of the previous, I think the last time they did one of these event screenings. Your thoughts on this? Because Peter Jackson certainly had some.
I think this is good. For people that want to see this again. I mean, it's kind of reminding of like when Revenge of the Sith was killing it when that got re-released into theaters. Although the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy blows the fucking prequel trilogy out of the water. Hell, just like Fellowship alone blows the entire prequel trilogy out of the water. But it's it seems like it's the extended edition, so it's the ones that matter.
Yeah.
For many Lord of the Rings fans. So
I mean, they've also got
Lord of the
fan
Rings is one of
introductions.
those
So, yeah.
trilogies I majorly respect with how fucking well done it is. But it just medieval fantasy was never something for me. Like I could never get into Lord of the Rings the same way as other people do. I could never get into like Game of Thrones and stuff like that. I mean, I don't mind like kind of Dungeons and Dragons vibes, but it's just something I could never fully get into. But I respect the hell out of them. They are incredibly well made movies. They are some of the greatest movies of all time, some of the greatest fantasy adventure films of all time. So if um, if like if you want to see those, and they're the extended edition. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, as Tony said, it's probably the greatest trilogy of all time because even Two Towers, which is easily the weakest of the three, is still. I mean, the Battle of Helm's Deep alone kills like entire entries of trilogies by themselves. So you know, but yeah, um, exactly. Tony's. You have both sides of the coin here. You have the haters, and then you have the lovers over here. So you got Tony, which is the unabashed loader fan, and then you have Figure Drawing, which is the unabashed loader hater. So
Well, look, as somebody here who's probably in the middle on that spectrum, because while Lord of the Rings is not my favorite trilogy of all time or like the thing that I love to death, I will say this: it's certainly one of the best trilogies ever made. It's genre defining, it's record breaking, it's record holding, and whether it comes to the box office or the Oscars or like pretty much across the board, there's so many. I'm not allowed to be in the middle. I can be in the middle. Come on, it's the Lord of the Rings is all about Middle Earth. I can be in the middle. But anyway, so all that
as
said,
I said, it's not my favorite trilogy of all time, but like
yeah.
it's one of the greatest, if not the greatest. I mean, if we're talking about preference in terms of trilogies, I would say The Evil Dead
Mhm.
or Star Wars, the original Star Wars trilogy, probably some more of my favorites.
Yeah.
But
I mean, for me, of course, the Dark Knight trilogy comes in there as well. But
we know.
and despite the fact that X-Men Origins Wolverine was a pretty bad movie, I'm still willing to put that Wolverine trilogy up there, but not definitely in the. I don't know. Maybe it might make it at my top 10 at like number 10.
I mean,
But now we're getting off track.
It could
Um,
be. There's two entries
It's
that could like be
yeah,
better than the
it's
first.
exactly
You know
up
what?
until you get to the
what?
third act
You could
of
you know what you
Wolverine.
could do? You could like circumvent it by putting the X-Men Origins Wolverine video game to supplement the movie, since the video game is like really good. So do that.
You know what? That's it. That's it right there. That's right there. Anyway. Okay,
Anyway.
let's move on because you know what, John? The biggest box
Because
office
now we have
news.
to talk about tits, because Sydney Sweeney's right here. So guys, pay attention. There you go.
I was gonna say the two biggest pieces of box office news from this weekend had nothing to do with Lord of the Rings, or Avatar, or Marty Supreme, or the Bone Temple. It had to do with The Housemaid, because
Yes.
those two big reasons were a big $200 million global tally for Sydney Sweeney's. Of course, it's also got Brendan Sklenar and Amanda Seyfried. The Housemaid, a movie that it's right now. It's like the engine that could. It just keeps on going, and they've already announced a sequel. It's based on a series of books. I mean, I'm sure there could be even more than two movies. I don't know if this is going to translate into the second movie being just as profitable or certainly earning as much. But we know how well Anyone But You did, which is one of those modern, rare successes as a rom-com. And it had Sydney Sweeney in it. It had Glenn Powell in it. And we don't really see rom-coms make money at the box office, but that one did. Anyone But You. And now here we go here with The Housemaid, which isn't really a rom-com, John. Would you say that's more of
more of a thriller?
More of a
In all
thriller
honesty.
with some horror elements, but nonetheless, I mean, Your thoughts on this? I mean, like, I know what you're gonna say if I ask you why, but let's just go beyond the obvious reasons, and then maybe do you have any other hunches as to how or why the housemaid is doing as well as it is, or is
Because it
it
was
just
actually
that simple?
marketed. It has a known cast, a known director, and the thing was actually marketed. Unlike the 10 other Sydney Sweeney movies that came out this year, I didn't see I saw maybe one trailer for Christie. There were no trailers for Eden, no trailers for Americana, and apparently there was another Sydney Sweeney movie I wasn't aware of. It was like I don't even fucking remember what the name was. I think she had 4 movies out this year. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
see honestly, I don't think I even saw a trailer for Christie. I saw like no trailers for any of these movies, but you know what I did see? I saw the Housemaid trailer more than there were movies of other Sydney Sweeney movies that came out this year. I saw the Housemaid maybe 4 or 5 times as a trailer in the theater, and that's like more than the amount of movies she had. So, it's that I feel like this was actually marketed. It had known people. It like, it did have the sexuality there that people want to see from Sydney Sweeney. I know that's surface level. I know it's sexist, but like people like attractive women. I don't know what to tell you. Like she's
I
hot,
mean, that's fair.
okay? People like hot women. They want to look at hot women on screen. And you have
I mean,
Amanda
but hey,
Seyfried,
you know,
who, because the
here's
thing is,
the
you
thing.
have
Let's
something for
not.
everybody. You have Sydney Sweeney and
That,
Amanda Seyfried
yeah.
being bombshells, and then you have Brandon Sklenar, who's probably
I was gonna
shirtless
say
throughout the
exactly.
movie. So you're bringing in the
Hmm.
ladies with that, and then you get, all gay dudes and lesbians. They like the other thing, so it's just like you're getting everybody with this, and it's a decent thriller. The last thriller that Paul Feig did, which was A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick and ironically Brandon Sklenar's more problematic co-star with From It Ends With Us with Blake Lively. So there is that as well. So Paul Feig did kind of bounce back from the shitty Ghostbusters remake, even though he kind of doubled down on how he did it and his thoughts on it, which like that's beside the point. We knew Paul Feig was cancerous, but like whatever. But he's proven that he can direct good like not crime thrillers, but like crime-esque thrillers, like dangerous women thrillers. He's it seems to be he's good at that. So like, fucking go with it. So there's some history there, and I think it's I think that helped it. Like people were aware of the movie, so they went to go see it. So I don't know.
No, I mean, no, you're right. You're right. Can't argue with that. Cannot argue with that. And I guess I guess we will see where things go from here, because now it's just all gravy from here, literally all gravy from here. And Figure Drawing disagreeing that it wasn't. It's not. I mean, it's not just because it's Sydney Sweeney, and there aren't just 2 reasons why she's a great actress. We are not even talking about it on today's show because it happened a couple of days ago, but like that new Euphoria season trailer dropped for season 3, so there's that too. And Sydney Sweeney's gonna have one hell of a year. And hopefully it's starting off with a lot more success than last year did, or ended with at least. So we'll see where the Housemaid goes. Of course, we'll see who wins the box office weekend, how much ultimately that Lord of the Rings trilogy re-release ends up making it. It already made 5 million in pre-sales alone. But you guys let us know in the comments down below which of those are your favorites to go see this weekend. Are you planning on going to the movie theater this weekend? And if so, then what are you going to watch? If you already been, then tell us what you saw and give us a little bit of a review in the comments down below. So with that, we're going to move on to some movie talk madness. From the box office to the movie to chat. This is the time where we talk about some movie news and we kind of like break it down. Let's analyze a little bit. So John, something big happened this week. Something big that some people saw coming, that we actually talked a little bit about, like, okay, it's getting closer. It looks like it's going to finally happen this year. And there were rumors about it. There's been rumors about it for years at this point.
Hey, Brogu.
Hello, Brogu. So my question to you would be, were you surprised to see the news that Kathleen Kennedy officially stepped away from Lucasfilm this week. And in stepping down, we know who is going to be stepping up. But just before we get into any of the details, were you surprised by that? What was your initial reaction to seeing Kathleen Kennedy steps down as the CEO, the chairman of Lucasfilm?
Honestly, it was kind of surprising because like there were like because there was the idea like what was it, like last year, where she was gonna seem to be leaving. There were rumors, and then she was like, no, I'm gonna stay for as long as I can. I'm gonna stay until I can't do this anymore. Blah blah blah. And then less than a year later, she's like, no, I'm out. Goodbye. Bye. And then like fucking hightails it out of there. So it's like, so what was all that bullshit about you saying you were gonna stay with Lucasfilm until like the day you fucking died? Where was that? I don't think anybody's complaining that she's leaving, but like, just add one more K to that and you'd be accurate. Anyway,
okay. Well, you know what, MTG, this is the time to throw that in there. And if you have a hot take, we will talk about the Bone Temple coming up. Don't you worry, that's part of Movie Talk Madness today. But let's kind of dive into the news element. I'm gonna kind of summarize what happened, and then we'll talk through it, because not only did Kathleen Kennedy step down, and like you said, John, this has been a long time coming, and she did an interview today with Deadline. We'll get into that in a little bit, but ultimately. And to address what Brogu's saying, she said that's not happening. I'm not coming back, because she was asked about that in that Deadline article. Like, are you going to be back? Kind of like Bob Iger came back, because he's always he's the biggest shareholder in Disney, one of the biggest. And so when they needed a CEO to come and steer the ship right after his own pick, Bob Chapek ruined it in less than a year's time. Despite extenuating circumstances like COVID, Bob Iger came back. But Kathleen Kennedy said she's not going to do the same thing. She's done. She's moving on to producing movies, which is basically what she loves to do and has loved to do. And that's, how she made her mark in Hollywood. One of the greatest, period producers, period, of all time, period. That is Kathleen Kennedy. As a movie studio head, she's had real ups and downs. And now I think people have been calling for her to step down for years, but finally she did. And John, you mentioned this was sort of like in the news last year, and even a few weeks ago we were talking about kind of the same thing, because last year when it came up, Kathleen Kennedy had talked about, I'm not going anywhere just yet. We're working on a transitional process. Then there were like insiders breaking news about who may or may not replace her once she does step down. That, she had been working with Bob Iger and the senior Disney leadership to figure out a transition plan in terms of like who was going to come in, who was going to be in charge of it all, if there was going to be one person, maybe two people. Well, we know now, because this was a rumor earlier in the week, and it's confirmed now, that Dave Filoni and Lin-Wen Brennan are going to be the new Star Wars bosses, basically running Lucasfilm. Now, if you scroll down here, Lin-Wen Brennan, of course, is the lesser known of the two names. She has been, executive at executive of production, I believe it was her old title. She has been part of Lucasfilm for some time now, and now she is going to be one of the co-presidents. She's going to be working under Alan Bergman, who was basically Kathleen Kennedy's boss. Who basically is in charge of Walt Disney Pictures Group, so that includes Marvel Studios. So he's Kevin Feige's boss technically as well. And then above that is Bob Iger. Now, if you scroll to the very top again, in that collage image, we have, of course, Kathleen Kennedy. And then, of course, you have Lin-Wen Brennan, who's going to be kind of like a Peter Safran, more of the business side, the production side. She knows how to do that well. That's what she does. She did that for a couple of decades, even before she got to Lucasfilm. And so she's not like some newbie to Hollywood. Then, of course, we have Dave Filoni, John. And then I'll bring in MTG's hot take in a minute, but I want to get your take on this. Dave Filoni, of course, is now the head of creative. He's basically the Lucasfilm equivalent of James Gunn. Now, I don't know how the dynamic between Lin-Wen and Dave is gonna go. Like, I don't know if it's gonna be like what James Gunn is at DC, and he's literally doing everything creative, and then Peter Safran, for the most part, is probably, unless he has some idea, I'm sure he can like say, how about we do it this way? But James Gunn ultimately gets to call those creative shots, while Peter Safran, not so much in the public eye, he makes all the decisions around the business of the DC Studios, production output, whether it's movies or TV shows. How do you think that dynamic is going to work out here? And then also, I think this is where a lot of you guys have opinions too. So we'll get into that. But John, I want to get your take on Dave Filoni now, basically being the guy who's going to be setting the vision for Star Wars for, the foreseeable future.
Look, I'm not gonna try to defend Kathleen Kennedy and her actions. I don't think she was the right fit for running Lucasfilm. I'm not gonna act like she's the next fucking Hitler geeky guy, but I don't think every decision she made was the best one. I don't like her work on the, Star Wars trilogy. I don't like her work like the Skywalker saga. I don't like what she did with, how she handled Solo. I don't like how she canceled Kenobi, then brought it back in sort of like a hackneyed kind of mini series. But I'm not gonna act like she's cancer or anything. It's just like she was dealt with a not great hand, and she just did what she thought was best, like any business person would. I know it's easy to shit on Kathleen Kennedy. God knows I've done it in the past. I can't really say a lot about Lin Brennan. I know of the name because has been attached to Lucasfilm for a bit, as you mentioned. Meanwhile, Dave Filoni, I do think that he is incredibly overrated as a creator. I think he doesn't really care about Lucasfilms as much as people thinks he does. I think he cares about his original characters, his continuity, and his bullshit more than anything else. I mean, he has gone on to say, and I think you might get a little mad about this, is that he openly said that he did not like Andor, and that was easily the best thing that, like, Disney Star Wars has ever produced.
I mean, I have heard though that those comments were taken out of proportion. Like, it's the telephone game that the internet plays. I don't think I don't think he universally hates. I think hate is a strong word, is how Dave Filoni might say if you pose the question. But he's gonna get the chance to clear that.
We'll see.
The air on that.
I just think.
Hey, D. Cole.
I don't like her. I'm not gonna act like I like Kathleen Kennedy, but I don't think Dave Filoni is gonna be this like amazing godsend that's gonna fix. Oh, he's gonna retcon 7, 8, and 9. He's gonna fix all the things that Kathleen Kennedy did wrong. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that. He's gonna fix Lucasfilm. He's gonna fix. No, he's not. No, he's not, because he's openly admitted to being a fan of a lot of Kathleen Kennedy's decisions, as well as doing the typical, like, oh, if you hate Rey, you're a basement-dwelling loser, and he was the one that pushed for a lot of her character arcs and decisions in that trilogy, and was a fan of them. So, frankly, you can go kick rocks if you think that Dave Filoni is going to be like this, like, guardian angel of Lucasfilm that's going to fix everything and change everything and is going to retcon every bad thing that Kathleen Kennedy did. Because, frankly, in the words of Zack Snyder / the villain from whatever happened to Truth, Justice, Name, American Way, you're living in a fucking dream world. So, I'm sorry. Dave Filoni is not gonna like fix all the bad things that you hate and is gonna be the next greatest thing since sliced bread. Maybe he's gonna do stuff, maybe he won't. I don't really give a fuck. I've pretty much lost love for I haven't really cared about Star Wars for a long time. I care about the first 3 films that were made by George Lucas, Irvin Kershner, and Richard Marquand, and that's it. That's all I care about. So, I care about those 3 movies. I think I like that trilogy, and there's nothing else. So, to me, this is just kind of a nothing burger. It's just another asshole that's gonna do these things at Lucasfilm, and he's gonna be like, he's just gonna be like every other businessman that, that has been ahead of something. Maybe he'll have the fans at heart. I don't know, but from what I've seen of him in the past, it doesn't seem like that. So. But we'll see.
Okay, so I mean, I think it's too early to pass judgment on Dave Filoni as a co-president of Lucasfilm, and I guess just to kind of cover the basis on what you guys are saying in the chat, and I see a lot of varying takes here. Like, the Acolyte wasn't the worst thing ever. It wasn't good, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. Ahsoka which is getting another season. That's a Dave Filoni thing, in terms of like he's championed it. Indiana Jones, the newest one, I think a lot of people had mixed opinions. Most people thought it wasn't good. I personally thought it was like kind of like meh by like Indiana Jones standards. And Anthony saying it should have been Jon Favreau, not Dave, because like John said, he cares more about his characters than the animation. Look, here's the thing, and I'll just and I'm not trying to play just devil's advocate. I think I should just, and I'm not trying to like defend Kathleen Kennedy, but I know one of you guys said, Mr. NYC said that, hey, she was the boss. She never took responsibility for her mess ups. Look, she did. She did. You don't think that she got flack for like when the third Star Wars movie made less money, like the in the sequel trilogy, than the previous two did, or when Solo was a flop. In fact, we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go on in the show, especially in this segment, talking about like the interview Kathleen Kennedy just gave. You have to take the responsibility for the successes, but also the blame for, you know, the mess ups, as one of you guys said. And Dave Filoni, like Pluto, hello Pluto, saying he's not a stranger to being the creative lead of Lucasfilm, because he's been doing this already for a few years. So having said all that, being the chief creative officer to now being the chief creative officer and co-president are two different things, because he still had to go to Kathleen Kennedy for the ultimate, you know, yes or no approval, right? But I don't think Dave Filoni needs, you know, to be a great director to become a great studio head. We've talked about how Kathleen Kennedy is one of the greatest. It's not even a question. Kathleen Kennedy is one of the greatest, like Tony said, legendary producers in the history of Hollywood. She's produced some of the biggest movies that we have all known and come to. If you go back to the previous article, John, there's a paragraph. If you scroll, just search for like extraterrestrial, the key name, and there's a paragraph listing some of the many iconic movies that Kathleen Kennedy produced before she was a Lucasfilm president, and handpicked by George Lucas to do the job. Now, of course, before she got to Star Wars, whether it was you know, E.T. movie, the Extraterrestrial, any number of other Steven Spielberg movies. She's worked with George Lucas back in the day, producing some of the biggest films that we have seen over the 80s and 90s. And you know, now with Star Wars, she had a really mixed track record, because obviously we know how the sequel trilogy started and where it ended. And Solo really missed the mark for a lot of people, and I think Kathleen Kennedy talked about it too. But that doesn't change the fact that she was a great producer. She wasn't a great president, and now you turn that, you know, around on Dave Filoni. First of all, we don't know what he's going to end up doing. So his future is yet to be written. How successful he's going to be is yet, you know, to be found out. As a CEO, as a co-CEO, as a co-president of Lucasfilm, we don't know yet. You know, he hasn't been in the role for 10 years like Kathleen Kennedy had been. So Kathleen Kennedy is not a bad person. She's just a better producer than a co-president, like an Enterprising was saying. MTG was giving his hot take, saying Dave Filoni will prove himself with the Mando movie and Ahsoka Season 2. Both are his personal projects. He saved the reputation of the prequels with Clone Wars, The Rebels, Bad Batch, and co-created Mandalorian. Those are all good points. And you know what? You said that was a hot take. I don't think that's a hot take at all, MTG, because yes, of course, because The Mandalorian is a co-creation of Dave Filoni. I mean, it's hard to tell who is responsible for what exact parts, but again, it's his name and Jon Favreau. They're both responsible. And then Jon Favreau, I don't think he was interested in being the co-president of Lucasfilm and being tied down. He still does work in other franchises such as the MCU. He's done other work for Disney outside of that, like The Jungle Book. So, and of course, you know, I'm sure there's going to be more of those Lion King live action movies. So Jon Favreau's got other things he wants to do, and clearly he doesn't want to be a studio head, whereas Dave Filoni really is a Star Wars person. Like, that's what he loves. That's what he does. Well, Monique Ripley, I think she is one of the greatest producers, Kathleen Kennedy, and she brought us some of the greatest movies, E.T., Goonies. I mean, beyond that. I mean, what am I thinking of? In Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind. Some of the most iconic movies.
She was on Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Jurassic Park, I think, was another one. So.
Absolutely. But having said all that, if you go into the next article, let's just talk about Dave Filoni for a moment, and I'll just give my opinion, and then we'll move on to Kathleen Kennedy's updates on her, basically what you could call her exit interview that she did with Deadline. And unofficially, I'm sure she had an actual Disney exit interview for a while ago. But Dave Filoni, look, he could flounder, but he could also succeed, because while he obviously loves the parts that he created, can you blame him though? Because like George Lucas loved George Lucas loved certain parts of Star Wars more than others, right? Like he had a particular vision. We've all heard, I mean, not maybe all of us, but if you have done your research, and it's out there for you to find on the internet, the vision that George Lucas had for Star Wars moving forward versus what Disney went with. And while the Disney version isn't necessarily, amazing all the way through and through, if you look at what George Lucas wanted to do, that didn't sound a whole lot more promising either. And that's George Lucas we're talking about, the guy who directed the prequel trilogy that most people hate. So every film, I mean, we are all humans. We have creative visions, and when you're empowered to pursue those, you may make some good decisions and some bad ones. And I think Dave Filoni is gonna trip up. He's going, it's the whole thing of, I hope that when Dave Filoni falls, there's George Lucas or maybe Jon Favreau right there being like, why do we fall, Master Filoni? Because so that we can learn to pick ourselves up. And that's really ultimately it. You gotta, as a batting average, you gotta do more good than bad. And on that front, I think Kathleen Kennedy, John, let's move on to the next article. Kathleen Kennedy did a pretty good job, I think, all around, but she wasn't perfect. Because ultimately you can go off of many different metrics. Sure, they tried to reboot Willow and completely failed. The Indiana Jones, last movie in that franchise, way over the budget, although part of it was COVID related, so it wasn't really like a Kathleen Kennedy made that movie more expensive or let the budget run away. But at the same time, it wasn't a movie that was nearly, as successful as previous movies or has the kind of cultural cachet as the original trilogy does of Indiana Jones movies. And then, of course, the Star Wars trilogy, the sequel trilogy, is not perfect. I thought The Force Awakens is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. It just, everything is set up, then I think really the sequel trilogy would have a much better reputation if it managed to somehow stick the landing with the third movie. Because if the Rise of Skywalker was any better than it actually was, I feel like the previous two movies wouldn't seem as bad as people sometimes remember them as. I think the sequels are a mixed bag, just some geeky guy, and I think the Force Awakens is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. Despite, you could say it's repetitive, it does the same thing over and over again. Yeah, but The Empire Strikes Back is also about destroying a Death Star that's bigger than the one from the previous Star Wars movie, the OG one. I'm like, Star Wars is not the franchise that you can blame that they're gonna repeat the same motif over and over again. The first and second movie had the same thing. There was a bigger Death Star. You make it bigger. You make it another bigger one. So they made it bigger.
Return of the Jedi that had the second Death Star.
Anyway, whatever. Return of the Jedi. I'm sorry. I'm mixing up my original. It's late at night. The point is, they did it already in the original trilogy. So if the original trilogy can do it, then I don't think it's such a out of left field move. But having said all that, Kathleen Kennedy also was the one behind Andor. She greenlit it. She's the one who looked at Dave Filoni's ideas and said, you know what, The Mandalorian sounds amazing. I know you can go and work with this guy, Jon Favreau, and he would do a great job. I think it was the opposite. It was like Jon Favreau had the idea, and it was like, I think you've got the pieces and the makings of a great film, the idea for a show here. I've got this person, Dave Filoni. He loves Star Wars. You may know him. Let's put you guys together and make this happen. Kathleen Kennedy did that. Kathleen Kennedy gave Tony Gilroy the green light and the Kate Blanchett with the budget and the creative to make Andor happen. So she had a pretty good run. It just was very uneven. It again goes to show you how lucky Kevin Feige was with the track record that he had up until the recent phases, because he's got to take the blame for that too. I mean, his record isn't spotless anymore, but still, all in all, you would say Kevin Feige is one of the most successful producers of all time. And yet, he's got the last phase and a half of MCU movies to contend with. So it's hard to kind of be, okay, across the board, everybody will get it right every single time, especially when you've been doing it for so long. You're going to have bad days at the office. And I think that's what happened with Kathleen Kennedy. But did she have more hits than misses? Yes, I definitely do think so. but with that in mind, John, she did this exit interview. I mean, it's not really an exit interview, but it's like you could call it that because this was an interview with Deadline. And we're not going to read the Deadline article itself because it's like a full interview. You guys are welcome to go read it for yourself. It's a really good read. It gives a lot of insights. But let's go over to the next article from comicbookmovie.com because I feel like that's a great representation of just some of the summary elements, like, and the first one here we're going to talk about, like, she gave us a lot of Slate updates. Like, we got as the exiting head of Lucasfilm, she gave us more comprehensive updates regarding the upcoming slate of Star Wars projects than I think we have heard in a long time when she was still officially in the job. Not only that, but she also talked about the hunt for Ben Solo. So I'm just going to read through a couple of these and you guys tell me what you think. And then John, of course, your reaction to this all as well. The first thing, it was the talking about Starfighter, a movie that's still filming, I believe. And Kathleen Kennedy said, look, it was envisioned.
Just finished filming, I think.
Oh yeah, it did just finish filming. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so just finished filming. Now, having said that, Kathleen Kennedy mentioned that it was envisioned as a single film. They didn't design it to be part of a trilogy, and mentioning that, look, it was kind of nice not going into the project and having to think about, how is it going to function as a trilogy, as the kickoff to a new trilogy. They just wanted to make a good movie and tell a good story, and then if it works, then maybe they'll do sequels. I think they're taking a similar approach to The Mandalorian and Grogu. So John, your thoughts on this? The idea that, again, it's obviously the next two movies in the Star Wars movie slate, they're not designed to be parts of trilogies. There could be one-offs, but if they're successful enough, they're open to doing more. I feel like that's how Hollywood used to work, and I almost wonder if maybe that is the way that we should be doing things in franchises like this.
I mean, yeah, still stupid that they're trying to cram a lightsaber fight in there that for some reason Tom Cruise directed because they're desperate to get people in seats for this. Oh yeah, Tom Cruise directed a fucking lightsaber fight for this movie, and it's like that raises more questions than answers. Why is this happening? So that's like a little weird, but like, sure, if it brings them more success, then fine. But I couldn't care less.
And look, here's what I'll say about the idea of going to be lower, and hopefully that all means that if the movie fails, you feel it's pretty easy to cut ties with it. And I think they clearly have shown that it was too hard to pull off a trilogy. So doing it this way, power to them. But then as far as other things go, she did talk about, John, I didn't even know this was a thing, but apparently Kathleen Kennedy had a meeting with Black Panther director Ryan Coogler, and she mentioned that Star Wars isn't really Ryan's thing. So I guess, over the years she had met with many directors like Ryan Coogler. She met with David Fincher, Vince Gilligan, Alex Garland, and she mentioned that none of them committed to telling stories in the Star Wars universe, aka a galaxy far, far away. So we have had these rumors circulate over the years, but it just looks like none of them were really true. Like, well, actually, no, well, they were true in the sense that she had those meetings, but none of them, were about actual stories that they were pitching. It was more like, okay, they met with Kathleen Kennedy. Maybe she was like, this is what we're doing right now. Or they were like, maybe we would like to work in this environment. But they never got to a point where there was a script being pitched. Are you surprised by that? Because, David Fincher, I would love to see what David Fincher could do in the world of Star Wars, or Alex Garland. Like, wouldn't that be fun?
I mean, David Fincher was one of the names that Kathleen Kennedy went to for episode 9. He was considered, and he did consider it. He's like, the way I view Star Wars is like through the eyes of C-3PO and R2-D2. Is like it's like witnessing this entire like life and death of this family through the eyes of these enslaved droids. And so he wanted to like kind of add on to that with whatever episode 9 was going to be when he was envisioning it.
Mm-hmm.
So that could have been interesting, but you know, I'm not gonna act like Duel of the Fates was like perfect or anything. It still had a bunch of dumb crap in it, but like it still would have been because the thing is, it would have continued with what Ryan Johnson did. And say what you will about Last Jedi, maybe it sucked, maybe it was the greatest thing ever, depending on who you are.
Hey O'Shea.
It would have continued those ideas rather than trying to backpedal and then do a whole nother movie in addition to that. It just like didn't work. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Regardless of what they wanted to do or did not want to do, let's talk about what else Kathleen Kennedy mentioned, shall we? She, by the way, did say like not everybody's going to be like totally open to the idea of joining in the Star Wars universe and telling a story. Some of them were just more, let's see what it turns into, or maybe the conversation could like, kick off some idea for a director. David Fincher did not seem to be into it all that much, and Alex Garland not so much. Now, of course, we thought that the hunt for Ben Solo was kind of a dead project, but according to Kathleen Kennedy, that's still on hold. And like the First Jedi and the Hunt for Ben Solo are both movies that were being developed while she was there, but now they're on hold. I'm gonna quote her here because she kind of went through a bunch of different things, confirming some things that we have talked about before and other things that we haven't. So let's see what she said here, because in response to a question about like, well, what is going on with the rest of the movies that we have been hearing about over the years, and she said I have to tread a bit carefully here because of for obvious reasons with projects that are still only in development. But she said, Kathleen Kennedy did, that Jim Mangold, aka James Mangold, and Beau Williams wrote an incredible script, but it is definitely breaking the mold and it's on hold, aka whatever they want to do with that, Knights of the Old Republic project, I think it was. That's something that it doesn't seem like it's quite ready yet. Where it is exactly, we don't know, but we know that exists. Taika Waititi, John, did turn in a script that Kathleen Kennedy said she thought it was hilarious and great. It's just not her decision anymore, especially when she has one foot out the door. So it seems like some things just got put on hold. Maybe this is an explanation for why so many of these projects seem to just come and go. But as it turns out, they're still on hold because she was just getting ready to leave. And so as she was getting ready to leave, she didn't feel comfortable making these decisions because she might not be around, and we know now she won't be around to see those movies through. So she left those decisions to the now new co-chairmen of the Lucasfilm. So that's there as well. And then she also mentioned Donald Glover turned in a script, which we think is the Lando Calrissian movie, the origin story, or like the younger Lando movie following the events of Solo. And then she also mentioned, as you have read, Steven Soderbergh and Adam Driver turned in the script. This is, of course, the one written by Scott Burns, the Hunt for Ben Solo, mentioning it was just great. Anything's a possibility if someone's willing to take a risk. So it looks like she's passing the buck. Do you think she means that these projects are now essentially, because like O'Shea was asking, what's the future of Star Wars? Like, where do we go from here? And it looks like Dave Filoni and Lewin Brennan walking in on day one of their jobs have all of these things already sitting there ready for a green light or further development. What do you make of the fact that these things are all, they exist? The Hunt for Ben Solo, we thought it was done for, but I mean, here we are. It could still happen. She's just saying, I didn't greenlight them because it wasn't my project to greenlight, because I wouldn't have been around to see it through, essentially. I mean, your thoughts on that, John? Are you surprised by that? Do you think there's any chance that these will get made?
Because the thing that I just kind of almost, it sounds too good to be true. So I don't totally believe this. I think this is just her being like, maybe it's hopeful, maybe we'll see, I don't know, but like I just don't, I just can't see it, like, because it's like Hunt for Ben Solo sounds like a really interesting idea. You have someone like Steven Soderbergh behind it, so there's that. And I don't know, it just seems a little too good to be true that it's like, oh, this thing was like pretty much everyone involved in the project, Adam Driver, Steven Soderbergh, they were like, yeah, this was 100% canceled, and then all of a sudden Kathleen Kennedy's like, no, it's not, it's just on a shelf somewhere. So I don't know. It just seems like kind of a too good to be true sort of thing.
I mean, I don't know if too good to be true is the way to say. To me, this is hope. Like rebellions are built on hope, as they said in Rogue One, and to me, it just simply says these things are still just marinating somewhere in the halls of Lucasfilm, and Kathleen Kennedy just didn't want to make the decision. Whether it was a decision to, whether it was a decision to essentially, I don't know how to put it, like to kick the can down the line, or I mean, look, here's what I'll say. Kathleen Kennedy probably didn't want to greenlight those movies or kill those movies because she wanted that to be a decision for whoever was going to take over, Dave Filoni and Lewin Brennan, which I think is a good move. Because if I'm Dave Filoni, I would be, because I don't want to be the person who revives something my predecessor killed. I'd rather that be something that was more left on hold, and then I just kind of take it over and then make that decision. Because, sorry, 1 second here. I'm getting an important text message. But yeah, if I was in Kathleen Kennedy's position, I think I would do the same thing. Like that's better than killing something and then your successor directly contradicts what you did by reviving, let's say, the hunt for Ben Solo. So I think she made the right call here. Now, she also talked about the Rian Johnson situation, kind of confirming that, in her own words, I do believe he got spooked by the online negativity regarding The Last Jedi, saying, I think Rian made one of the best Star Wars movies. Look, I think The Last Jedi on its own is a great film. It has some questionable story decisions in terms of like the way it's structured, but it's not it's far from like a terrible movie. It just looks so bad in hindsight because how different the first and the third movie in that sequel trilogy are. And I just think Rian Johnson, Kathleen Kennedy's on the mark. Like, he's a brilliant filmmaker, but he got spooked by all the negativity. He's not the first. He won't be the last. Christopher McQuarrie has talked about like he doesn't want to work in that universe because of the fans. There's plenty of other directors who have said that. So I guess we could kind of leave that there. I don't know, John, if you have anything to add to that. I think she's just confirming what a lot of us kind of knew about that already. But moving forward, she also mentioned something that I think we were kind of, if you go back down to where we were there in the article, this is something that kind of got buried in for a while. Like if you go back to the previous article, John, where we were, like she talks about Simon Kinberg. I think he's still working. Because remember there was this mention that Simon Kinberg was going to work on a new trilogy of movies for Star Wars. Like he's of course the guy who made probably the least notable X-Men movie, but he's really more of a writer than a director. So I think him making that his first movie was as a director was probably not the good move to begin with, but nonetheless, he moved over to Star Wars. There were like a rumor that he was going to work on a trilogy. Then everybody thought, oh, that thing is dead now. Like he's done. Apparently, according to Kathleen Kennedy, he's still working on it right now. And as late as last August, they got to read it, and she thought it was very good. But she also she's being nice. She's saying it was somewhat, it was not there. It was really good, or it was very good, but it was not there, meaning that it had potential, but it was maybe not quite, ready to go in her opinion. So she basically, she says they upended the story, but essentially kind of rewriting a lot of it, I guess, or like redoing things. And Simon Kinberg has spent a lot of time working on it since. And rather than working on the script now, he's sort of gone back to working on the treatment first and then getting back to the script after that. And that treatment just, was done and ready for review 4 weeks ago. Like just a month ago, Simon Kinberg submitted a treatment for a new trilogy. So that's still alive. And then she also mentioned about James Mangold's project. She said, look, that is really on the back burner, as is Soderborough's The Hunt for Ben Solo, but the ones by Taika Waititi and Donald Glover, those are still somewhat alive. So yeah, John, there's just quite a few movies here. And then Kathleen Kennedy kind of wrapped up her answer saying, I know that Dave and Lin-Wen are very much on board with what Simon's doing, so that might be more of what's going to actually happen, and that would be a new trilogy. So in terms of addressing what is the future of Star Wars, you've got The Mandalorian and Grogu, which if it's good, they will make more. You have Starfighter, which actually moves the story forward beyond the sequels. So if that's good, they might do more. And then you have a potential Simon Kinberg trilogy of movies And then, of course, you still have Ahsoka going on, and whatever other TV projects they might still have in the pipeline. John, does the future of Star Wars look a little bit better, because it seems like there's more still in the pipeline, at least, whether it's ready to go or in progress or on hold, than we knew about just even a couple of days ago? Because I don't know about you, but I thought most of these projects were dead and buried. But Kathleen Kennedy just opened the door wide open on so many of them, including, of course, the ones that are already being released because they will have potential for sequels, like The Mandalorian and Grogu, as well as, of course, Starfighter.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of sick of talking about Star Wars right now.
Fair enough.
I can't imagine me myself going to any of these movies, but if like people are happier and Dave Filoni and Lin Winbrenner do all the things that they want them to do, then cool, great. But I have no foot in this battle, so I just think I have no skin in the game. So I don't know. It's just whatever to me at this point.
Fair enough. All right. Well, then let's keep. By the way, Mandalore, a Star Wars story sounds amazing. I would love to see that movie. Maybe they'll make that. Maybe Dave Filoni will make that. I'm sure he loves Mandalore. I mean, he loves the Mandalorian. But Kathleen Kennedy also talked about a few other things. Let's kind of scroll down in this article, because she addressed all the negativity, the sexist abuse that Star Wars fans have levied on actors and directors in the franchise. And well, John, she mentioned the whole idea that it's just when the spotlight is bright. I mean, I'm just going to paraphrase what she said. She said, look, there's a very small percentage of the fan base that are actually, just abusive. Like, they have really enormous expectations, and they just want to see the same thing. She's saying, like, they just want to see the same stuff that we have seen before rehashed, and they can't do that with every movie. We got to tread new ground, which some people might say they weren't doing enough of that anyway. But then she also said there's some abusive fans out there, some of those toxic part of the fandom, that are just like the Snyder cult that we talk about sometimes. There's just a small group of fans with the megaphones. So again, just addressing what a lot of people already know. But then she also gave us a little more insight into and again, praising Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo, who she calls the walking encyclopedias inside the company. So she's pretty confident in having been part of the committee that picked out her successors, which is a good sign. I mean, but again, it will depend on how well these guys actually do or not. And of course, I mentioned earlier, one of the things she addressed in the interview was she's not coming back. She's done. She's going to produce movies. And if you scroll down here, there's a couple more quotes from her interview that I thought were interesting to get into. I don't know if she's insulting the audience of Star Wars fandom, Mr. NYC. I think what she's saying is a little vague in terms of, like, we're not going to do the same thing over and over again. But to me, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and say that she wants to do new things, tell new kinds of stories with Star Wars, which I think we need. We really do need that. And then she did talk a little bit about, look, women that come into this space because they just get, unfairly targeted. We talked about it before. Well, I'm gonna forget, Kelly Marie Tran got abused on social media after The Last Jedi, very unfairly so. And then I think J.J. Abrams only made it worse when he basically made her character a background extra with a few lines of dialogue, if that, in the next movie. So I hope that the creators and the directors and the creatives behind Lucasfilm do a better job of when that kind of thing happens again, of not just reinforcing that perception in the mainstream. So yeah, but all of that said, John, at the end of the day, if I were to just ask you to give Kathleen Kennedy's reign at Lucasfilm, a 10 out of 10 rating, with 1 being trash and 10 being amazing, where would you say she landed? How would you grade her time as the president of Lucasfilm?
4.
4? Okay. I would say probably a 6.5, which in soccer terms is like just above average. 6 would be like average, so it's just slightly above average. Because
I'm not gonna act like she was
was
fucking Hitler or something like that, but I feel like she had more misses than hits, I think.
I would disagree with that. I think as a
I mean, if we're
whole,
talking about like
you
longevity,
know,
if we're talking about money, then like yeah, like I could see where you're coming from. Obviously, she made over $3 billion with that Skywalker Saga trilogy.
yeah,
Well, it's specifically the sequel trilogy. So yeah, obviously, box. I'm talking about more creative decisions and that kind of thing,
yeah.
and like the things that have made people happy, and it just like it feels like she did more negative than positive. That's just how I see it. But like I get like, but if you're like including money, maybe I'll be nice and like say like 4.5,
Yeah.
maybe 5. But you know.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I gave her a 6.5 because she made 5 Star Wars movies that combined, I think, made close to $5 billion, like over certainly over $4 billion, which is for 5 movies to make over $4 billion is never going to be a bad thing in Hollywood. And it wasn't like every single one of those movies cost $400 million to make. It wasn't like she was making 4 Avatar movies. She made 5 movies that averaged almost $1 billion a piece together. That's huge. But she was there for 14 years, and they only pushed out 5 movies in 14 years. And of those 14 years, I think it's been, like 5-6 years since we actually got one of those movies. Now, of course, she oversaw The Mandalorian and Grogu and Starfighter. So I think when those come out, well, she won't be the president of Lucasfilm when they release. I think if they're successful or if they're a flop, you got to give her credit because she's the one who kind of shepherded them most of the way. The Mandalorian pretty much almost to the release date. And then with Starfighter, it's in post-production now. And now Kathleen Kennedy is stepping away. So yeah, I ultimately 7 movies, I guess, in like 15 years by the time Starfighter comes out. That's a pretty good track record, but it's far from being perfect. And when you look at all the movies like the Patty Jenkins one and everything else that we talked about, not making it all the way, like you said, a lot of misses. And then yeah, Solo was like the first Star Wars movie to not even make $500 million, I think it was. And yeah, the TV output on Disney Plus was hit or miss at best, and just more misses than hits at worst. So yeah, for me, 6.5. I think 6.5 is a pretty fair rating, but 4 also, I understand your reasoning. That being said, John, let's move on past the Lucasfilm news. We're gonna talk about 28 years later, the Bone Temple.
Yes.
That's what we had some super chats, and early before the show even started, just some geeky guy said he saw it. He was surprised that we didn't get more scenes of alpha zombies running with their dingalings swinging side to side.
But there's a lot of
8 out of 10.
You see Samson's dick. You see Dr. Kelson's dick. You see some other random zombies. You see a lot of dick in this movie.
Do we need a spoiler warning for this? I'm going to put up a spoiler warning for this because, okay. I mean, you're welcome to go into the spoiler because I know we're at the beginning of the weekend. A lot of people might not have seen this yet. But, John, you did see 28 years later, the Bone Temple. So why don't you give us your review and tell us what you thought about it. Maybe even, walk us through the Rotten Tomatoes score because it's gotten great reviews, but I don't know what the fans are saying.
So for me, I literally just saw it earlier today. I saw it along with Dead Man's Wire, but there wasn't a lot to say about Dead Man's Wire, so I didn't want to do a review of it. For me, now you can go watch this on the channel separately from a live show because I believe I was doing a double feature that day, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it onto the show, so I recorded for entirely different movie because I think I was doing a double feature that day. So I did my review like way beforehand. I sent it and it got posted on the channel. So if you want to watch my review of 28 years later, go to the videos tab and watch that. But quick thoughts if you don't want to go back and watch that. I think 28 years later was a decent movie for the first 2 acts, and then the third act was probably the best thing I have ever seen from Danny Boyle. That's saying a lot. So with that, I think, I feel like I could only go up from here because my favorite 28 movie is one that was not directed by Danny Boyle, much like this movie was not directed by Danny Boyle. It was directed by Candyman and The Marvels director Nia DaCosta. She also directed a couple other movies that I know she did one with. I think she did one with Brie Larson and Tan Taylor. I think years ago. And and that was like one of her first. I think that might have been her directorial debut, and then Hida or something like that, or I think she did something with Tessa Thompson in between Candyman and this. So for me, so getting to the review, sorry for filibustering. I thought this was phenomenal. I thought this was much better than 28 Years Later. I thought it was much better than the previous movie. And I thought this pretty much, it got all of the, like, world building. Like, 28 Years Later, it was 28 weeks, and then you go to 28 years later. It's like, sure, a couple months, and then it goes to fucking, over almost 3 decades later. So you got to kind of build the world up again. Where is Britain? Is the infection spread? It's not. It's just to Britain, because it was kind of a not so subtle Brexit allegory. I might have to agree with you on that, although Weeks still might be my favorite. But Bone Temple, I think, just nailed everything that I think 28 Years Later couldn't. I think the acting from everyone is phenomenal. I mean, Ray Fiennes, the fact that we're living in a world where Ray Fiennes still does not have an Oscar shows that we are in the worst timeline. Like that, it's just like, you watch this guy. This man has been in some of the greatest movies of the past 30 years, but at the same time, he's also been in Harry Potter and this, which made to another actor seem lesser. Maybe it is to him. Maybe, and he just doesn't voice that. But to me, in interviews, it seems like he's still treating this with the love and dignity that he would The English Patient, the pretentious Oscar bait crap. So that, I think, means something to a horror fan like me, and someone who is as distinguished and considered one of the best in his field. It means something, even if it's not his true feelings. I think it shows that he is still passionate about the source material, and his role is, showcased a lot more. He's not a protagonist, but he's definitely a bigger supporting character here. I think what he does with this performance, he's given so little, not in like a bad way. It's just like, there's not much with him, but at the same time, there is a lot with him. Like, just like, I almost want to see it again, just to see like the inner, like, machinations of him as a character, because I feel like there's something more I'm probably missing that was between the lines with him as a character, and his relationship with Samson, who's the alpha, who I'm looking up the actor because I don't know. Actually, I can look it up right here. Let's see. We can go to Chi Lewis Perry. This was one of his first roles, I believe. And maybe not his first, but definitely one of. And he does a very good job. Like, again, it's sort of hard to talk about because he's a zombie. He's an infected. He's can't really like do much, but how it intercuts like his relationship with Ian Kelson is just so, it's just one of those things. The more I think about it, the more I love it, and it left me wanting more. Like, it's an hour 50 minutes, but like I wish this could have been like 2.5 hours long, because I just wanted to see more of Kelson and Samson, but in like a good way. But I knew if there was more, it wouldn't be as perfect, and with that, I think, and that leads me to, you have, Jack O'Connell, who was famously Remick in Sinners, is now Jimmy Crystal Sir Lordship Jimmy Crystal, who is a not so subtle Jimmy Seville allegory. You know, Alex Garland, he's a great writer, but he's not really subtle with his theming. But, you know, that's okay. It's still a great movie. But I think, you know, I think with what he what he did here, I would say I liked his performance more as Remick, but I think he did do a really, really great job as Jimmy Crystal. And I think, for me, that's where this movie shines. I think Alfie Williams, he's given a backseat this time around. He's not the protagonist. He is, you know, he's more of a secondary. It's more about Jimmy Crystal and Kelson than and his relationship with Samson. It's all about relationships, like very much like fatherly figures and like mentorship and all that. Then, you know, than what was done last time. And I think that very more of that. I liked how this was a more personal story. Kind of like, you know, second films and trilogies are very hard to do correctly. Usually it's the weakest of the three. Like we were just talking about Lord of the Rings, I do believe Two Towers is the weakest of the three, because it just, yes, we do get Gollum and the Battle of Helm's Deep and all that, but it feels weaker. But this movie, I feel like, is gonna be the best of the three. I think it's gonna truly be, it's just like, I love how personal it is. I love how dark it is. I love how cringy and gross and disgusting it was. But in like, it shows what it is, and it's focused entirely on these four characters. You do get other supporting characters as well, but it's mainly focused on these characters, and I think we did that really well. The soundtrack is great. It's the same composer who did Joker. I'm gonna butcher her name, so I'm not even gonna bother saying it, but that's the composer. She did a really good job here. And I think, you know, the sets of the Bone Temple is extravagant. I think, like, again, it's just like, I can't really say too much, because it's just like it's a character driven story. While the first one was about the world and where it was after 30 years, here it's about like the characters in the world, and that's where I think this movie shines. To me, it's like, as I said, 28 Years Later was kind of a decent movie with an amazing third act. This was a proper build-up, because it started off like pretty good, and then it just got better and better and better and better as time went on. And much like 28 Years Later, much like the previous film, the third act is easily the best part, but it's not like the outlier of like an average movie. It's like a proper build-up, like you're waiting for the time bomb to burst, you're waiting for it to explode, you're waiting for like something to break, because you know something is gonna fucking break, and it's gonna break hard, and the way they execute that is brilliant. And I'm not just saying that as a metal fan, to all the people who have seen it, but I'm just saying, like, it just, how it builds upon itself is done expertly well. The pacing is a lot better here. The editing is a lot better. The music choice, because I remember those were the big things for a lot of people with the previous film. The editing and pacing and music were not that great. I had different problems, but those were some problems that people had, and they were rectified here. Nia DaCosta did a wonderful, wonderful job, and much like the director of 28 Weeks Later, did a better job than what Danny Boyle did previously. So, yes, exactly. They do mention that in the film as well. I thought, you know, how people view the apocalypse. It's been done before, but the way they do it here was very well done. And I think he, as in, you know, Alex Garland did that. Again, it's on the nose and it's been done before, but the way they executed here was very good and very well done. You know, and I think, just, it's truly a great movie. And I mean, Danny Boyle did say this. This is not much of a spoiler. He did already say that Cillian Murphy is coming back, and he does come back in the end. I'm not going to spoil the context or what happens, but he does come back, and they do hint on what has happened with his character in the 28 years since, 2002, or whenever the original film 28 Days Later was supposed to take place. I think it was 2002, like when the movie came out. So I think what that promises was really good. I really liked that, and I liked a couple other of the side characters. All the Jimmies are properly fucking wackadoos. I think the practical effects are really good. Some of the gore is like kind of like what it was for Primate, but even better, where it's just like really grotesque, but it like worked. It showcased. It wasn't like gore for the sake of gore and be funny. It showed the fucking like destruction and the evil side to people again, which has been done before, but the way, again, the execution makes it feel fresh and new. So with all of that, I think 28 years later, the Bone Temple is definitely an improvement on the first film. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I think yes, that was definitely a really interesting part. And with all of that, I think it's an improvement. And I do think it's better than the first. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it a 9.5 out of 10. I gave it an extra half. For all you people who have seen the movie, I don't want to spoil it for people, even though this is a spoiler warning. Only one zombie wiener, but we do get to see multiple wieners, and I'll just leave it at that. Is the ending song. Don't spoil it in the chat for the people who've seen it. But that ending song made me give it a 9.5 instead of a 9. So I'll leave it at that. I think, like this song that the film ends on that goes into the credits. But the subversion of expectations was very good. And overall, this was a very, very well done film. Give Ralph Fiennes the fucking Oscar, you fucking cowards. And that's all I have to say about that. So yeah, go watch it. Go watch it in a theater. In terms of what people have been saying about it, because we knew the critic score, which was like kind of floating in the mid to late 90s. The audience score gave it an 89% so far. Obviously, it's only been out for a day. So, still, I would go watch this. Try to see it in Dolby. That was my mistake, because they were, unfortunately, the Dolby screens were only in late in the day, and I wanted to be back for the, for this, so I couldn't see it very, very late. But I kind of want to see it in Dolby again, because this was a brilliant film. I think this is arguably the best of the franchise. However, I prefer 28 Weeks Later. I love 28 Weeks Later. I know nobody else does. I love it. I think Bone Temple might be too late in terms of Oscar consideration for this year, but maybe next year, maybe for the 2027 Academy Awards. So we'll see. Unlikely, because it is a horror movie and it's a zombie movie, and there's all that. I will say, the 28 blank later franchise, they love to show dongs. Like, the first thing we see in 28 Days Later is Cillian Murphy's flaccid penis in a hospital room. We see the Alpha's dong here. We see Ralph Fiennes' we see so much dong in this franchise. I think Danny Boyle I think he's trying to tell us something.
Okay. I was like, are you gonna go there? Okay, all right.
Maybe Nia DaCosta is trying to tell. I don't know. But, we'll see. But I would say go watch it. Please go watch it. If you saw the first movie and you loved it, I was a bit spoilery, not too spoilery, because it's so early. It's
Stacey
not like we're
enjoys
doing
it
this next week, but I
mean, it's for the ladies, John.
I'm pretty sure there is more penis in this movie than it gave them. Like, I'm pretty sure. Like, well, I don't know. Dong song.
Okay. Well, That was our review of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. John, thank you for that. And then, of course, you guys let us know in the comments down below what you thought about the movie. Of course, when we're doing this review, it's just the beginning of the opening weekend. Is battling with Avatar for the top spot for the opening weekend.
It's made
Avatar
$2.1 million, I believe, in previews.
Previews, yeah. And then, of course, by the end of the weekend, the holiday weekend with MLK Day in the US on Monday, it could make somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 million is what we were looking at, and we will find out whether that's enough to beat Avatar in its 5th week of release. But of course, the ratings are high, the audiences seem to like it, and the critics seem to love it. So you guys let us know in the comments what you thought about it, of course. And if you're watching live, thank you for doing that, of course, and hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. So with that, now we're going to move on from some movie talk madness to some MCU madness, aka MCU Weekly. So let's get into that, shall we? Today we have a lot to dive into, as per usual, because it's a busy time for Marvel, but of course, John, there's a few different things that we got to get into. The headline, of course, has to be that the Avengers Doomsday 4 teaser trailers that they put out. I mean, literally, if you look behind me, I've got the Doomsday clock playing. It's blurred, it's kind of out of focus right now, but the Doomsday clock back there, that's the live stream that's going on right now. But they put out those 4 teaser trailers, which apparently aren't teasers. They are more like clues, if you believe the Russos, and we're meant to decode them and something. But they together have now got 1 billion views. That's not $1 billion. It doesn't necessarily equate to $1 billion, although some industry insiders out there are saying that all the social metrics for Doomsday are projecting. I mean, if you just go off social metrics alone and the awareness and the excitement around the fandom, they're expecting Doomsday to make $2 billion easily. But that's all, speculation and really early predictions, still over 11 months away. But the headline in Hollywood Reporter said, Avengers Doomsday teaser trailers, or clues, top a marvelous 1 billion combined views. That's a massive sum, considering the numbers were not boosted by tying into a TV broadcast event. Of course, this is not like a Super Bowl trailer. I mean, obviously there's 4 of them, but they were released in theaters first, then they were put online. And these numbers are coming only from the official releases, not the leaked versions that we got to see a week early for all of them. John, how impressed are you by this idea? And your thoughts on the fact that they racked up 1 billion combined, meaning that each of those averaged 250 million. That's a big deal. Superman broke records for DC and Warner Brothers last year, and even that I think had 150. Like 250 per teaser, aka clue. Even if you just look at that as an average, I'm sure some of them did better than the others. That's a pretty gosh darn big number, and combine 1 billion views in a matter of just 4 weeks. Your reaction to that, and what do you think that means for the movie's chances at the box office? I mean, is this maybe a blessing in disguise, or is this now just raising the expectations to an unhealthy level? And I don't know, is this a double-edged sword for Marvel to now work with as they continue to market the movie?
It could be a double-edged sword. It's kind of like the Half-Life 3 thing, where it's just like, well, you've been waiting for so long. You can only give us the best, and when they don't get the best, then I think that they'll riot. Probably. I think there is a lot to be said for, the hype and all that. I just think, it's... people are excited. Obviously, they would be, because this is the next, Avengers movie, and it has Doom and has nostalgia bait, so it has all the things to get people excited. We'll just see if they can actually execute that hype properly into a film, but we'll just have to wait and see, because they managed to do the nostalgia bait hype machine for Deadpool and Wolverine. We'll see if they can do it again for Doomsday.
Yeah. Well, they're still got, as the clock says, if you watch it on YouTube, the live stream, it's still 11 months to go. So, I mean, they got to keep this hype up. Where the double-edged sword argument comes in is they've generated all this hype for a movie that's still not coming out for almost a year. Like, it's still going to be in this calendar year, but 11 months is, 1 month less than a year. So there's a lot that's going to happen between now and December 18th when the movie comes out. And they, through all of that, through releasing a whole Spider-Man movie, can you imagine? I mean, look, it's not likely, but can you imagine if that Spider-Man Brand New Day movie coming out in the summer? I know it's Sony Marvel, but even though, it's officially an MCU movie, if that is a divisive, controversial movie for whatever reason, that would hurt the chances of Doomsday, I'd imagine, right? Like and I know Spider-Man probably is not even in Doomsday, but like still, like it's a one Marvel movie. If it kills the momentum that Marvel has been building up, like they have to overcome all of that. Like what about the TV shows? What if Wonder Man, like Marvel might have been, if it's bad, Marvel might just hope that it just disappears from people's imaginations. Most people don't even remember it came out. But if it is good enough to neither be amazing nor be forgettable, but rather maybe it's a divisive, they have to overcome all of that. They've got Vision Quest. If any of those things come out and cause controversy, or if there's anything that goes wrong, they have to keep the hype train rolling through all those ups and downs. So yeah, I mean, look, I still think Doomsday and Spider-Man are in good shape, Tony, but a billion views, while that's on the surface a huge positive, it could be a double-edged sword for them. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention, if we go to the next article, we could just stay on the headline. We need to scroll down because I'm going to basically paraphrase what Joe Russo said. He did an interview, and if you go to the next article, in the comicmovie.com, they kind of mentioned this, and I think we have a quote from Joe Russo, because he, of course, one half of the Russo brothers. He did an interview recently talking about the movie. He talked to Empire, and apparently, he mentioned, and I think if you scroll down a little bit further, we can find what he said. He was sitting on this idea, like according to him, the idea of Captain America, well, now just going off just Steve Rogers, the idea of Steve coming back in Avengers Doomsday is something that's been in his mind a factual reality for a long time. Like it doesn't seem like it was only hatched up a couple of years ago if you go off of what Joe Russo is saying. And he's saying, look, his role is central. Steve Rogers' role is central to the Avengers and the larger narrative of what the MCU has been, which we know, like, he was one of the faces of the MCU while he was around. And obviously we have seen, like, without Steve Rogers, like, not that it was directly because of the lack of Steve Rogers, but, in terms of recognizability of the franchise and what people gravitate to, there's been a hole since Chris Evans left the franchise. But Joe Russo went on to say, about Steve Rogers, that's very personal to us, meaning that Steve Rogers is very, this has been speculation, but now Joe Russo is pretty much confirming, if you read between the lines, we can't see this narrative, he said, without Steve Rogers' central role in it. So my question to you, John, would be, does this mean that the idea of all those rumors over the last few weeks suggesting that it's Steve Rogers' decision to stay back in time with Peggy and have a family, that maybe is the whole reason why we even have this Doctor Doom plagued by RDJ to begin with, because unwittingly so, because, Steve Rogers is not a bad guy, so I don't imagine he would do this on purpose. He might have created, the butterfly effect that leads to the incursions that gives Doctor Doom his motivation to do what he does in the movie. Like, that was just a theory. Now you hear Joe Russo say all this stuff. Do you think he's just basically confirmed the idea that Steve Rogers is not only going to be coming back, but he might be the whole reason why Doomsday as a movie exists in terms of the narrative?
God, this franchise is, God. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Maybe Captain America will truly become Captain Hydra now. Or it's like, oh, I caused all the incursions. Well, hail Hydra. I don't know. That would be funny though. It's just, no, he's been the real person we found in the ice has been Captain Hydra all along. That would be fucking hilarious, not gonna lie. But, but yeah, it seems like that's the case, and obviously we'll see where that goes. Maybe there's some sort of like arc, and then like Captain America sacrifices himself for the universe, and he like kind of like the Flash and Crisis on Infinite Earths type of thing, where he's like, oh, I caused this, I'm gonna fucking sacrifice myself to make sure this is right. And he can, and then he'll eventually get reborn with the reset, because they already confirmed that Captain America is going to come back with a new actor. So, That could be an interesting little thing, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I could see them doing that as well, and
Yeah.
it's kind of pretty much, as you said, confirmed now. So
Yeah. Well, again, he didn't say it's in explicit terms, but I can imagine that that's what he's hinting at. Like Joe Russo, if he's telling us to pick out the clues from the teasers that they've been putting out, then I can imagine that he's, without saying it, pretty much saying that Steve Rogers might be the whole reason why this movie's narrative even kicks off, why we have all these incursions happening. Now, if you go to the next link here, John, I just wanted to mention the reaction Marvel had. Like, according to the report in The Hollywood Reporter, Marvel Studios were really happy. Like, they were proud that the Avengers Doomsday teasers managed to, do all this heavy lifting, getting 1 billion views without even including Doctor Doom in there. Like, RDJ's Doctor Doom was not in any of the 4 that we got to see, despite speculation to the contrary. I mean, to the Marvel Studios crew, according to this report from THR, like, they believe that this is proof that there remains a great and passionate interest in the MCU characters and their original actors, because it's not about nostalgia entirely, even though I would argue to the contrary, because one of those teasers was the Fox X-Men coming back. But I guess Marvel is just saying, this justifies their decision to bring RDJ back, even though, because a lot of people were saying RDJ is going to carry the movie and it's going to be all about nostalgia and people are just going to go to see Robert Downey Jr. to coming back. But they were like, these trailers did really good. And Robert Downey Jr. was not in any of them. Are you buying that? Like, do you think this is proof that Marvel isn't really, the only successful when RDJ's on screen, or is there? I mean, could there be other reasons? Because I think the Fox X-Men were my favorite teaser, and that has nothing to do with RDJ. So
yeah, because it has something to do with a franchise that's been around since 2000.
Yeah.
So there's that. But it's just like, I just love how it's like, oh my god, maybe we didn't need to pay like nearly $100 million for this fucking douche canoe to come back and resurrect our dead franchises. Maybe we just needed, nostalgia bait to 11 and people would come crawling back. So
yeah,
here we are.
I mean, look, it is still a positive to know that they didn't need to, from a marketing standpoint, put RDJ out there this early. We don't know what Doom is going to look like officially just yet. And that is something they can use for marketing. That will be a big reveal. And the fact that they didn't have to give that away this early and the trailer still did as well as it did, I think is ultimately a positive for the MCU. Also, Nia DaCosta had some comments. I think if you go back to the previous article for a moment, the director of the Marvels, she mentioned, and now talking about it in more open terms because the teasers are out, that we talked about this the other day. She's got a pretty good relationship with Kevin Feige and Marvel, despite the fact that the Marvels did not do very well. But also, she visited the set of Avengers Doomsday, specifically that house that we see in the first teaser with Steve Rogers and where I assume Peggy Carter, the two of them had a family back in the 40s. That was years ago. And like Nia DaCosta said, she's been sitting on it for a very, very long time. And yeah, like she said she loves Kevin Feige. They all get along. At the end of the day, the Marvels is a Disney film. It's a family film. Even though there were reports that Marvel wasn't very happy that that movie, the Marvels failed, but like Marvel Studios apparently still has a very amicable relationship with Nia DaCosta, and she can finally openly talk about the fact that she got to see Chris Evans act as Steve Rogers. It seems like she said years ago. Like, I don't know how many years that means. Maybe a couple of years ago, because maybe a year ago.
Years.
I don't know. But I guess she doesn't have to worry about it this being something that's protected by an NDA anymore, because it's in the trailer that everybody has seen. So, right. Yeah. Which is great. I mean, look, ultimately, these teasers getting 1 billion views, it wasn't even like look, Marvel never officially acknowledged them. There wasn't a press release. It was just, they just dropped, they leaked online, and then they dropped in theaters, and the week after they would just pop up on the YouTube channel of Marvel and the various social media accounts, and half of them didn't even say Avengers Doomsday teaser trailer 1. I mean, none of them said that. They just said the X-Men will return in Avengers Doomsday. Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday. That was in the titles and everything. They just know. It's kind of like when DC put out that first teaser of Superman, they just had the logo and did not put Superman, the word Superman, in the trailer at all, because they were like, of course you know what that means. You heard the music, you saw the symbol, you saw the costume, you saw the actor. That's Superman. We don't need to spell it out for you. And so I think that's again one of those like mic drop moments that Marvel, rightfully, their marketing team is celebrating. But we have a few more pieces of news, but these now, John, are rumors. Let's just put up the rumor warning quick here, so you guys know that we are talking about some rumors. As it says in the headline here, and I'll just kind of tell you what it says, but it is spoiler. Remember, John, our favorite character spoiler. Apparently, according to this rumor, that post-credit scene at the end of Thunderbolts, featuring the Fantastic Four ship, we all assumed that the Fantastic Four were on the ship, but according to My Time to Shine, Thor and Steve Rogers are already on the Fantastic Four ship with Doctor Doom before it arrives in the MCU. So not only is it going to be potentially the Fantastic Four in the ship and Doctor Doom, but Thor and Steve Rogers before it arrives in the MCU. But wouldn't you say, John, that Steve Rogers and Thor are already part of the MCU? So like you were suggesting, maybe this Steve Rogers isn't the one that we know and love. Maybe he is Nomad. Maybe he is playing Captain Hydra. Maybe this is an alternate reality, like a variant Thor. Maybe our Thor still has long hair and is making jokes with the what's the name of the new weapon? Not Mjolnir, the other one. I keep forgetting. Stormbreaker. I wanted to say Warhammer, and I'm like, that's not it.
That's a whole nother franchise.
That's a whole other franchise.
Just don't say Warhammer 3 times in a mirror, or Henry Cavill will appear behind you.
Yeah. I don't want to. I mean, you know what? Maybe some people would like to see that happen. But John, your thoughts on this?
Geeky guy would jerk off to the idea, but here we are. But I can't imagine that this is true or not, because I can't imagine, because they specifically say the MCU. It's not like, oh, they had to go somewhere, pick them up, and then come back. Mm-hmm. It's they arrive in the MCU. I don't know. I don't think this is true. If they said the Wakandans, yeah, I'd believe that, because that means they went to Wakanda, picked up M'Baku and Shuri, and are heading back to New York because they need to pick up the Avengers and all these people. If they said the X-Men, oh, they picked up the X-Men in another world and then came to this one. That makes sense. The fact that literally the two most unlikely people are on the ship makes me believe that this rumor is literally being thrown out there purely for people to talk, and that's it, and it not be true in the slightest. That's what I think this is.
You know what I was gonna say, and this is now like adding a little theory on top of a rumor. Maybe that post-credit sequence at the end of Thunderbolts wasn't like the right after. I mean, obviously they do kind of skip time a little bit, but maybe it's not meant to happen before the events of Doomsday kicks off, because we know it was shot by the Russo brothers. Maybe that's a scene that's part of a sequence from Doomsday, and it's not something, because we all think like linearly, right? Like we saw the post-credit scene, so that must have happened after the events of Thunderbolts, which it does, because there's a timestamp, I think, on it. But it doesn't tell us that it happens, before the events of Doomsday begin. So maybe it is our version of Thor and our version of Steve, but some things have already been transpiring. Like maybe the Fantastic Four ship is the one that they use to travel between these different universes that are on the way to an incursion, and they've just fought the X-Men and defeated whoever and maybe like made friends with the X-Men or whatever, and they're now coming back to the MCU, and maybe all this has happened before the Thunderbolts get involved, or maybe the Thunderbolts have already been part of some kind of like fight, or the New Avengers, and now they're just waiting on the ship to arrive. Although it's more likely to be that they encounter it for the first time because of their reactions in that sequence. All I'm suggesting, John, is maybe there's more to that end post-credit scene at the end of Thunderbolts in terms of where it takes place, in context of the Doomsday storyline, than we're giving it credit for. Total speculation on my part. I just wanted to put it out there. You guys let me know if there's any possibility remotely that might be true. But John, there is one more rumor about Doomsday I wanted to kind of quickly bring up. Again, rumor, take it with a grain of salt. But if you go to the next article here, this rumor is coming from a different source, not My Time to Shine, but it's about Doctor Doom's Avengers team, because there's apparently the idea. This is the idea that he's gonna have his allies, maybe his minions, and whatever, like the people that do his bidding, his generals, like Thanos did, the children of Thanos. So there's been rumors that these are gonna be other characters that we know, maybe variants of heroes that we have known in the MCU. This latest rumor talks about it. I think if you scroll down, we can look at the source. By the way, hello, Kevin. And I think it was My Time to Shine had a rumor about the Midnight Suns. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Daniel Rickman was bringing up the idea that Doctor Doom is going to have multiple sidekicks. They're all going to be masked, and they're all going to be made to look like they're variants of the main Doctor Doom. But once they're unmasked, we're going to find out that behind the mask are characters that we are all familiar with, like Scarlet Witch and maybe even Tony Stark. We know Tony Stark which would be a little kind of weird. I mean, maybe the two characters will look so different that RDJ can clearly tell which one is Tony Stark and which one is Doctor Doom. Like, one might be disfigured, the other one has the iconic goatee and stuff. But then, like, if Scarlet Witch is going to be one of them, that means Elizabeth Olsen is going to be back. John, do you believe this idea that we'll have these masked sidekicks that will like the Scooby-Doo will happen?
Maybe they'll have this idea, but not like, oh, fucking Scarlet Witch and Tony Stark are coming back. I don't believe that, but I could see a variant of this happening, just not exactly how it's written like this.
I don't know exactly if this is going to play out the way it's being reported, but we have seen like a million theories online about the plot of the movie, and some of them just sound too ludicrous to be true, but others, you feel like there's maybe a kernel of truth here and there. So like you said, maybe this isn't entirely off the mark, but more likely not going to play out exactly this way. But there's another rumor from My Time to Shine about the Midnight Suns movie that is reportedly in development. Remember, we talked about how Blade looks like is officially, finally, for the 5,000th time, actually dead as a movie idea. But they will still have Mahershala Ali stick around to play Blade eventually in a movie. It's just going to be Midnight Suns. And according to My Time to Shine, we now have an idea of who's going to be on the roster of that team. That's going to include, of course, Blade, but then also Ghost Rider. I don't know which version, if they're bringing back Nick Cage, if they're going to use the actor Gabriel Luna from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or somebody completely new. But also then Moon Knight, which I also heard that Moon Knight will have a starring role in that movie. He's not going to be in Doomsday, but we're going to see Oscar Isaac essentially return as Moon Knight. Wong would be in there as well. Then Werewolf by Night, which we've only seen in that one limited presentation on Disney+. Man-Thing, of course, similar situation. Then Black Knight, of course. I'm forgetting the name. Who's the actor? Kit Harington. Do you like this idea? Do you like the idea of this team kind of coming together of disparate? I mean,
I said
characters?
This fucking like weeks ago, where I was like, "Oh, Blade, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, Man Thing." I literally guessed most of the only one I got wrong was Black Knight.
I mean, they also mentioned Elsa Bloodstone would appear as well. And
then the only one I got wrong is like, oh, Doctor Strange wouldn't appear in this, but it would be Wong instead. But since Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme, I could see that happening. Doctor Strange, but it makes sense because it's just like Doctor Strange and Clea were in that like post-credit scene for Multiverse of Madness, so it makes sense. It's like, oh shit, we can't do this by ourselves. I'm putting together a team, and then they get this team, and it's but instead of Iron Man, Captain America, it's Blade, Ghost Rider, and Moon Knight, and all these supernatural people that can help with this supernatural threat. So. Yeah.
No, I think you were on the mark, and I mean, if that rumor turns out to be true,
I would hope that's true. I don't believe it, but I hope it's true, because I think a Midnight Suns movie would be fucking awesome, because you're bringing in a side of this world that you don't really bring. Like, you have the magic side, you have it with WandaVision, you have it with the Doctor Strange movies, but that's kind of it. And even Multiverse of Madness strayed away from the supernatural idea to make it more of a multiverse idea. So I'd love for them to bring in those supernatural elements back, and a Midnight Suns movie would be perfect. And I think you have a lot of supernatural characters you're not gonna really do anything with. So throw the kind of like what Legends of Tomorrow did on CW. They took all these characters that had no future, just threw them in a ship together, and they traveled through time and space. So I think that would be really fun to do because these are small characters that are small potatoes. They can't like they can't be part of their own movie, so they can't own a movie. So just throw them in a movie all together, and then if that's successful, then you could spin off to do a Blade movie, and then maybe have more of an idea of what they want to do, or spin off into another show or another movie of any like a Man Thing movie. I don't know, but whatever you would want to do, then you could spin that off because there's so many possibilities. But since that sounds like a really good idea, they're probably not going to do that because Marvel hates good ideas that aren't nostalgia bait. So, yeah.
Well, we'll find out if it actually works out or not. Given how well Blade has gone, sarcasm. I don't know how well Midnight Suns would do, but if they're bringing somebody like a Jordan Peele to work on it, then yeah, I would say that has potential. That definitely has potential. But John, there's one more rumor, almost like a quick hit, but I wanted to kind of bring this up because you sent it in our group chat earlier in the week, and it's sort of been circulating on the internet for a while. It comes off the hype of Stranger Things, of course. Joe Keery played Steve, and Steve is pretty much done because Stranger Things is done, and therefore Joe Keery has got time on his schedule. Apparently, Marvel is considering him for some kind of role. I think Daniel Rickman was behind this rumor. We don't know what role, essentially, but I guess if you want to look at it from a Fancast Friday kind of a lens, they want to maybe bring in Joe Keery into the MCU to play a character. Would you care to speculate, whether this is
I mean, I think I said it
then,
right here on the side. Hello, that's me. Don't friend me on Facebook. I'm not going to accept it. But look, there it is. Right there. I said it already. So there you go.
Cyclops. Okay, so you would say he would be a perfect Cyclops.
I think Cyclops. I think one of the X-Men characters, he could probably do Gambit or Iceman really well. I think I just think that I think he would be really good for the role.
That's as good of a pick as any. In fact, I think when we did our Cyclops and Jean Grey fan casting, I think he was in there, wasn't he? I feel like Joe Keery was in that list.
He was.
You guys are welcome to go check that out. I think was that a couple of weeks ago. Look at that Fancast Friday episode. We got all the picks in there, including Joe Keery. Although we could do a reverse Joe Keery in the MCU, episode of Fancast Friday as well. Which, by the way, we're doing an Alfred Fancast Friday episode after DCU Daily today. But speaking of DC, John, let's move on from Marvel, because now we gotta get into some Warner Brothers bidding war updates. DC is a part.
If we're here, he'd be so
of Warner Brothers
about it.
And well, there's been a couple of big developments in the last few days with the Warner Brothers Discovery bidding war. Of course, the bidding war being between Paramount and Netflix. We're going to talk about it, and I feel like the biggest piece of news in the week is what Ted Sarandos said in a New York Times interview that took place this week, and we'll get into that as well. But before we get that far, I wanted to kind of give you guys the latest update from a business side for Netflix. Netflix is now looking at adjusting their Warner Brothers Discovery offer to simply make it all cash. Remember the original offer that got accepted and signed, so as of right now, the deal between Netflix and Warner Brothers is part cash, part stock. So they had agreed to, basically give the owners of Warner Brothers Discovery stock some Netflix stock and then some cash. Now they just wanted to make it all cash. That's of course been one of the arguments of Paramount, that our deal is simpler because we're doing all cash. So choose us. Now, if Netflix makes their offer all cash, that takes that one thing Paramount has been saying that makes their offer superior away from that. But it also gets around the whole situation of Well, Netflix's stock, there was a collar price set, which meant that there was a range in between the Netflix stock value would have to remain for the actual overall value of their deal that they agreed to with on Warner Brothers. That not that that it would have to equate to, basically they agreed to pay like 82 billion. Now Netflix's stock price has kept on dropping, and that has affected basically the overall value of that 82 billion. Basically, Netflix is not really paying 82 billion anymore for Warner Brothers based on their stock price. But now if they make it an all cash offer, then that brings it right back to what they agreed to originally. And it still allows Warner Brothers to, spin off their TV networks, and again, takes one more advantage, perceived advantage from Paramount away. So there's that. Now that's on the business side of things. I think this is Netflix reacting to all the Paramount stuff and trying to like lock this thing down and be like, Paramount has one less leg to stand on. So there's that. Now we will get into the Paramount side of things in a minute, but before we do, it's one of the things that's on the thumbnail. It's probably, I think, the biggest development in this whole story since Netflix made it official with Warner Brothers signing that deal to buy out the Warner Brothers studio and HBO streaming and all of that stuff minus the TV networks. And that, of course, is the theatrical release component. We've talked about it. Netflix doesn't like releasing movies in theaters. And Ted Sarandos has said in the past that he thinks it's an outmoded idea. Well, in this New York Times article, he was interviewed about that. He was actually asked specifically about that. And he was saying, look, if you go back to my comments, I was saying it's outmoded. Going to movie theaters is outmoded, aka it's not in vogue for some people. And he mentioned an example of like, there's people in the towns that Sinners, the movie Sinners from last year, the towns that is based on, the town, I think it was in Mississippi, that it's based on, as per Ryan Coogler, they don't have any movie theaters in that town. So if somebody lives in that town, they would have to get in a car and go to another town, like 2 towns over and stuff, or like wherever the closest movie theater is. That's not as convenient as his own daughter who lives in New York City and can literally walk to 6 different multiplexes. So he's giving us an example of, for some people, watching something on streaming is just more convenient and might be the only way to do it at a reasonable cost to them, versus, not everybody lives in big cities where you can just go to a movie theater near you, right? And I totally hear you. I totally hear that. I understand what he means by this, but that doesn't negate the idea of theatrical, releases being, valuable to the movie industry. We have talked about it at length. And really the sticking point over the last few months has been, and there was a report out there, which I think was more implied than anything else, that Netflix will eventually get Warner Brothers movies to be playing in theaters for only about 15, 17 days, meaning only about 2 weeks before it gets on streaming. Theaters can't survive like that. Well, Ted Sarandos did an interview today, and here's what he said. Now, Dark Lead Eric, you are hitting the nail right on the head, and look, we all would love to have a 60-day theatrical window, but basically, Ted Sarandos confirmed the idea that 45 days, that's going to be the theatrical window for Warner Brothers movies once they are owned by Netflix. And I'm going to give you guys this specific quote. John, I don't know if you can find this in the article, but I'm going to read this out because he was asked about this in the New York Times interview, and Ted Sarandos responded to the reports that Netflix would basically cut the theatrical window down to 17 days for Warner Brothers movies. And he said, when this deal closes, we will own a theatrical distribution engine that is phenomenal and produces billions of dollars of theatrical revenue that we don't want to put at risk. We will run that business largely like it is today, like with 45-day windows. I'm giving you a hard number. If you're going to be in the theatrical business, and we're competitive. We are competitive people. We want to win. I want to win opening weekend. I want to win box office. Now, John, you tell me, can you take this at face value? Because now he's kind of just addressed this head on. And I think for the first time in a way that he's not done this since the deal happened. He's said a lot of other things to try to convince us, but he is saying now 45-day windows. It's a hard number. We're gonna be in the business. We're competitive people. We want to win. And I'll just give you some more context. Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, who's now the chairman of the board of Netflix, so he's not really one of the CEOs. He's not involved in the day-to-day running of the company. Ted Sarandos said that Reed Hastings still kind of prefers the build versus buy model, so he's not a big fan of this deal. But Reed Hastings is still, he's kind of been hands off. So it's not like everybody at Netflix loves the idea of this happening, but Ted Sarandos is committing to a 45-day window. Do you believe that? Do you think he means it this time?
It's the only thing I can believe right now, is the only thing I can only take it as face value. But remember, Ted Sarandos at one point also said, wow, this fucking Warner Brothers Discovery merger with another company, or this buyout's stupid. And then like 2 weeks later, he submits something for the merger, and now he's gonna fucking get the company if David Ellison, eventually fucking stops acting like a whiny little crybaby and can fucking just take the L. But we'll get into that soon. It's just, so it's like he's lied before, he can lie again. I mean, literally, these motherfuckers get their empires by lying through their teeth. So I'm gonna take it at face value for now, but I wouldn't be shocked if, he does like eventually just backpedal and be like, well, I want to win the box office for now. And then like 5-10 years later, if all this goes according to plan, if all this happens, and then like 5-10 years later down the line, well, things change. And then he's like, 2-day theater windows, So that's all I can really say about that.
Well,
so just take it at face value for now, but keep it in the back of your brain that he could be lying, because he's lied before, and these assholes always lie.
Well, look, he's saying this in a public interview statement. Like, New York Times is also like not like some random outlet that's, doesn't have any readership. It's the biggest newspaper in the world. People are going to hold him to that. So from a PR perspective, to just kind of walk that back, they would have to like explain the reasoning behind it. Obviously, they'll have the right to do that. They would own Warner Brothers. They can do what they want with it. But I want to believe him. 45 days. I will say though, there's a little more nuance to it, because like Dark Lead Eric was pointing out, what about Superman? I believe Superman hit HBO Max 35 days after release, right? Essentially, so that's like 5 weeks of theatrical exclusivity. That being said, Superman was still playing in theaters for a few weeks more. It just became available digitally and on streaming, because they wanted to make it available to more people to watch, so that they were ready and would have been caught up to see Peacemaker season 2. I don't know if I buy that's the reason why, but really ultimately the reason why that matters here is that 45-day window is more of like a soft cap, or like, and if you want to think about it that way, where they don't need to reach 45 days for every movie. The way the agreement works between Warner Brothers and other studios and the theaters is 45 days is like the ideal number, but they can put it on streaming or digital quicker if that's the average. But basically, according to the deal, they can do the deals that they have in place since COVID, when all this changed. They can ask the theaters and make a case like, look, like, what was it, Fall Guy, that made literally almost no money at all. They can like, and then I forget what studio it was. I think it was Universal. They went to they must have like gone to the theaters and be like, look, this is making almost no money. We're just gonna put it on streaming. And the theaters were like, sure. It doesn't help us or hurt us, because nobody's coming to see this movie anyway. And so you can technically put movies on streaming or in digital before the 45-day window runs out. But as a rule of thumb, they're going to try to make it 45 days. So there's a bit of nuance to it. So I don't want people to come back in a couple of years and be like, but that movie played for 35 days before it went. It can still do that under today's rules as they are constituted. And Ted Sarandos is simply saying, we're going to keep that, deal in place. So anyway, that all being said, John, Ted Sarandos had one other quote, which had to do with the president of the United States. Donald Trump had tweeted out this like article from another conservative outlet recently, talking about how the Netflix deal for Warner Brothers is bad, that it should be stopped. And Ted Sarandos was asked about it, and he was like, he doesn't know why. He doesn't know why the president said that, because he has met with the president a few times, and every time has been in a conversation that's focused on creating and protecting American jobs. So he then kind of said, look, I don't want to overreact or overread it either. Like it's not something that he's looking at and saying, oh my God, I need to like go have another conversation and blah, blah, blah. And I'm okay with that. You know what? You want to take a measured approach in the public view, because yeah, if the president gets involved, I mean, clearly, like, hey, the way things going right now, they could try to block the deal, or just at least extend the amount of time it takes to close, because the government can sue for this deal and then take them to court, and then whatever happens from there. That being said, Ted Sarandos is playing it cool, and I think that's the right move right now. Paramount, on the other hand, John, Paramount is not playing it cool. In fact, they're doing the complete opposite, because like you said, David Ellison has been, pretty much throwing a hissy fit for the last few weeks, and instead of, throwing a few extra $1 billion the way of David Zaslav and co., they decided to sue Warner Brothers recently. And of course, one of the things they asked as part of that lawsuit to force Warner Brothers to reveal more specifics about the board's process for picking the Netflix deal over their offer. The judge basically said, look, your request to fast track the discovery phase of that lawsuit is denied, because it's not going to, the reasoning why Paramount said that was that, can you please fast track this lawsuit, because it's going to materially affect our studio, our business. And the judge was like, nah, us fast tracking this whole process is not going to actually affect Paramount in a material way. And well, that kind of sets Paramount back a little bit now, right? Because if Netflix changes their cash and stock offer into all cash, it all of a sudden takes that one reason Paramount was saying their offer was superior away from them. And they are still, not any closer to finding out the exact way and reasoning and financial analysis that Warner Brothers Discovery did to choose the Netflix deal over them. So the judge said no. Now, that of course is not something that's going to make David Ellison and the billions that he has to fight these lawsuits, and make him go away. It's going to make him matter, and it's apparently going to make him even more committed than ever to like being a wedge in this whole deal, because David Ellison and his leadership team have now been in Europe. I think they mentioned the UK, Germany, and a couple other countries in Europe, France, and they're trying to rally support for their hostile bid to take over Warner Brothers Discovery. Basically, they've been talking to government officials, they've been talking to like union leaders and like, political leaders and just key entertainment figures in those European countries, which will be a big part of the regulatory approvals abroad. And they're trying to get them to side with the Ellisons on this. And essentially, when the time comes next year, when Netflix is trying to close the deal with Warner Brothers, hopefully, that will be the breaking point. And then Warner Brothers will have to walk away from the Netflix deal, and then Paramount can come in and be like, we're still here, guys, and we'll still take you. Here's $100 billion. John, your thoughts on this? Is David Ellison at this point? I mean, because to me, this reeks of desperation, the ultimate desperation. Because this tells me he doesn't think that enough shareholders will tender their shares to Paramount or go with their choice of nominees to replace the Warner Brothers board, all things that they have said they're going to do. And this would be like their last ditch effort to try to like kill the deal. Is he already admitting defeat at this point? Like, what do you think?
I hope so, because then it'll just be funnier.
It would be. I mean, can it be any funnier?
It'll be funnier, because it's just like he's like I wanted the monopoly, and I fucking never was told no as a child, man. And it's just like, bro, just take this L. Just fucking take this L and stop being a little pussy ass bitch about it. You fucking, you and your fucking piano teeth. Like, get out of here. Your fucking no eyebrow looking ass. Your fucking weird ass nose and that fucking hairline. Fucking loser.
Wow. Okay. Well, if you go to the next article, we could talk a little bit about what's going to happen next, because you think this is bad. It could get even uglier, because, I mean, clearly David Ellison isn't giving up. And despite multiple rejections, he could just, I mean, you look, that lawsuit didn't get thrown out. It's just they're just saying we're not going to fast track it. So ultimately, Paramount isn't giving up, and now this thing is this is all happening in the public eye. John, do you think this will actually end up affecting Warner Brothers, the picture output, like just the reputation of the studio, as well as that of obviously, I think it's affecting Paramount already. People have a lower, level of respect for Paramount, given that they're the ones making, all this, hassle or mess of this whole situation. And even for Netflix, I mean, Netflix clearly has got, their stock price has dropped hugely, like since this deal happened. So do you think this will keep getting ugly? Like, is it gonna get uglier before it gets any better? I mean, and what do you think is the ultimate end game here?
I mean, the wish is WB doesn't get sold off to anybody, and they just continue, taking the W. But like, I just feel like David Ellison will crawl to the ends of the earth until he gets what he wants, because
Yeah.
That just seems like where it's gonna go. And it's just portray him as William Wallace of all people, who's supposed to be the good guy. That's kind of, a little suspect there, Hollywood Reporter. Not the best way to portray David Ellison, because he's definitely, if he's anybody, he's, like England or whatever the fuck the bad guys were in Braveheart. I don't know. I've never seen it. But
the King of England, I forget it was who it was meant to be.
But it's just like, it's probably going to get uglier. It's probably, things are going to get worse. It's probably going to get more desperate until like, it's until like somebody tells him like, finally, you can't do anything. We've done everything and you can't do anything. There has to be a certain point where he finally does understand he has to take the L. Because, like, I don't think a WB will ever go to Paramount. I don't think so. Like, it just, like, it would be way where I don't think Netflix is the best course of action either, but they're still better than Paramount. So, it just, I just don't really know at this point. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, look, I think this whole thing, while it's gonna get dragged through the mud publicly for a while, one of the reasons why Warner Brothers say they rejected the Paramount deal initially was because they thought they were going to be a litigious partner, aka they were just there to sort of mess up this whole process and be really difficult about it. And Paramount is proving that to be true. And that's not something you can deny at this point. So Warner Brothers, the shareholders that Paramount keeps saying were being unfair, I don't think they were wrong in saying that Paramount was going to be litigious, because they've literally been sued by Paramount now. So yeah, I mean, I can't believe I'm rooting for Netflix in this. Like, a lot of you guys are in the chat talking about it. I think Netflix might be playing 3D chess in this whole time. We'll see, especially if they do turn their offer into all cash, because then at that point, I mean, is it game set match? We'll see. But John, we don't need to go through the details of this. But if you guys are interested, I highly recommend go to the Hollywood Reporter and look for this article, because it's that whole idea of this has all happened before and will all happen again, like in Battlestar Galactica in the early 2000s. With the Ronald D. Moore version, that's like the theme. And guess what? Paramount and Warner Brothers almost were one company 100 years ago. In 1922, Paramount was on the up and up, was like the studio to work at. Warner Brothers were in more debt, that and their studio, the West Coast studio, like, it wasn't doing as well. And well, at the time, Jack and Henry Warner were still around and stuff, but Paramount wanted to buy Warner Brothers at the time, and they were willing to kind of bully around a lesser Warner Brothers at the time, and ultimately, the Warners would not have it. And then, of course, the stock market crashed, and then, we obviously know, like, things didn't go well for anybody in America at that point. But this is a fascinating story. I think this is one of those things where you can, like, make a whole video essay out of it, and it's just an amazing exploration of how what we're witnessing today isn't necessarily the first time that Warner Brothers and, Paramount have been sort of at loggerheads. about a merger. We could have had a Paramount Warner Brothers Corporation 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago. I just thought that was incredibly interesting, and I love that the Hollywood Reporters pulled this story out. And there's a lot of good context in here because, again, they do say history does repeat itself, and whether you believe that, at face value or not, this is an example of it's all happened before and it will all happen again. And then, John, one last thing regarding this: John Oliver, of course, of the Last Week Tonight show on HBO, he loves to call out HBO's business daddies all the time, as he likes to refer to them. And whether it was AT&T, I don't know if the Last Week Tonight was on when AOL Time Warner owned Warner Brothers, but he certainly would love to make fun of AT&T back in the day. He loves to make fun of Discovery these days sometimes, our business daddy, as he refers to them. But he was recently on another I think he was on a different podcast, Trevor Noah's podcast, and he was asked about, well, what do you think about HBO getting another new business daddy in Netflix or Paramount? And he was like, look, it's hard to justify legally, but we're not going to change. AKA the Last Week Tonight show will continue to do what they do, and they'll have the creative freedom or the editorial freedom. Now that's something where I'd imagine, John, that if Paramount took over, then John Oliver might get taken off the air, like like what's happened to Stephen Colbert or something to that, or what's been happening at CBS News with all the changes. But maybe Netflix will leave him alone. Like, what do you think is going to happen ultimately for shows like Last Week Tonight when it's under Paramount or Netflix's oversight post sale?
I have no fucking clue.
I think this would be similar to the James Gunn situation, where Paramount will probably more likely to oust James Gunn if he says the wrong things, and they piss off the wrong people. Whereas if it is Netflix, they keep saying they're just going to let Warner Brothers do their thing the way they are now, keep HBO intact. So another reason why I personally would love to see at this point Netflix take over. But we'll keep an eye on what's going on here, and then we'll come back to it once there's more developments. I'm sure we'll get more news on this in the not too distant future. You let us know in the comments what you think about it. In the meantime, we're going to move on and talk about some quick hits. So let's dive into those quick hits. There's a few of them, and they're lots of fun, John. Let's get into it. The very first one, I kind of want to walk through this real quick. Speaking of Netflix and Sony, which already had a deal like this in place for the last few years, but it was nowhere near as valuable as the new one. And the previous deal that they had was only for North America, like the US market. Now, Netflix and Sony Pictures have closed a $7 billion plus. The exact number is not known, but it's over $7 billion worth exclusive global pay one deal, which is an industry first, because usually these pay one deals happen on a regional basis. So now basically, after Sony Pictures movies are out of theaters and they've gone to their home theater window, you can rent it or buy it digitally, then the very first streaming service those movies will land on is going to be Netflix. And it's not just going to be in the US anymore, because that was already there. Like, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and a bunch of other Sony movies, they all came out on Netflix. I'm sure you guys have seen these movies on Netflix right at when they hit streaming, because Sony doesn't have their own streaming service. Netflix had those rights. They would have them on this platform for 8 to 10 months when they hit streaming, but only in the US. Now that's going to happen everywhere. It's kind of like how WWE has all of their rights for Netflix given to Netflix around the world except for the US. But here, Sony movies, once they leave theaters, when they're on streaming, for the first 8 to 10 months they will be streaming on Netflix. John, how big of a deal is this? Because this is like several times bigger than the deal that they had in place for just the United States. Now it's everywhere. And by 2029, no matter where you live in the world, Sony Pictures movies, like the Spider-Man movies that are part of the MCU, they won't go to Disney Plus after they come out of theaters. They go to Netflix. I mean, this also has implications for Netflix saying we're going to continue to, work with other studios once we own Warner Brothers, right? Because this is a multi-year deal.
Yeah,
they're not just gonna hog Netflix, Warner Brothers. I think that's a plus.
Netflix is just gonna own everybody in the next 50 years if we're still here. It's just
Yeah.
Netflix. It's just the.
I don't know if this helps the monopoly argument so much that Paramount is making, that Netflix is monopolizing Hollywood with stuff like this.
It's just like
Yeah.
Netflix is gonna own the movie industry. Apple is gonna own the like phone industry, and then Google is like Amazon's gonna own like buying stuff, and then Google's gonna own everything else. It's just gonna be the 4 quadrants of stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway.
good luck to Netflix and Sony. I love Sony TVs. I've got all Sony TVs, Sony cameras. John, walk us through the rest of the quickest, because we got lots of good ones. Tomb Raider being the next one.
So we get a first look of Sophie Turner as Lara Croft. And it looks good. Doesn't mean the show will be good, but it's nice that they brought back the green crop top and the John Lennon sunglasses and the, gun holsters on both legs. Obviously, she does not have the big bazonga melons, but, take some, lose some. And we don't know if the show is actually going to be good or not, but we will have to see. But it's nice that they have the look, so I'll give them that.
I mean, she looks the part. She looks the part.
Yeah.
Can she act the part? That's the question.
Probably not, but it's we'll see. But I like how they did actually give us the look. I love how no matter what, you can't fucking win. It's just it's either you get them exactly like the character, like here, and it looks like a Halloween costume, or they look nothing like the character, and people are still mad. It's just all right, then fucking cope, loser. Take the W where you can get it, all right? She looks the part. Awesome. Great. I'll take it. Doesn't mean the show will be good. Doesn't mean I'm going to watch the show. But, just fucking take the W.
Are you calling out Tony? That felt like a very directed at Tony.
Yeah, it is. Because, it looks like a Halloween costume. Yeah, well, fucking suck my dick. How about that? Fucking asshole. Jesus Christ. Take the W. We have so fucking little in terms of this fucking dog shit show. Just fucking take the W. God, yes, I understand. Haley Atwell was literally born to play the part. And guess what? They fucking put her in that god-awful animated show that nobody watched, and it was dog shit. But yes, she would be perfect as live action Lara. Obviously, that's not gonna fucking happen anytime soon if this is gonna be successful, which probably is. So just fucking take the W. She looks the part. Boom. Great. Awesome. If you want the big bazonga melons, go watch the Angelina Jolie movies. Shit. Fuck. Or go watch the porno version. They probably put Angela White in that fucking version. Jesus. Fucking goddamn. She looks it. I will give them that. They got the sweater, they got the booty shorts, they got the sunglasses, they got the guns. All right. Cool. Great. Take it. Fuck. Oh my god. Anyway, Robert Downey Jr. says Timothée Chalamet is one of the greats and touts Doomsday as Avengers Doomsday and Dune 3 open on the same day. We'll see if we're still friendly by then. We'll see as well. They're trying so hard to fucking, do Barbenheimer again, and it's not gonna
and by the way, we were wondering whether that was going to be a thing, because remember when Barbenheimer was happening? The actors were promoting each other's movies as well. This was this is from a Marty Supreme Q&A session that happened after a screening, where for some reason RDJ, you've been why did you get Robert Downey Jr. to moderate a Marty Supreme Q&A session, a movie that has nothing to do with RDJ, not even as a producer? But then not only was he moderating the session, he called Timothée Chalamet one of the greats even before he's 30 years old, and then he pulls open his coat and he's wearing a Dr. Doom shirt. And I'm that's no coincidence. That must be Disney saying you can do this. And it looks like Disney and Warner Brothers will lean into this, because we were talking about one of these movies has to move.
We knew it was going to be Doomsday. That was the only thing that made sense. So
Well, I mean that was an original. He was I think we came up with thinking of Doomsday. I'm yeah, no shit, you're thinking of Doomsday. You didn't invent
Everyone
that.
else already fucking
exactly. But I think what I walked away was, this is Disney and Warner Brothers doing this together. They're gonna coordinate some of this stuff, and from that perspective, this is great.
This together.
They're dooming this together. I don't know whichever version.
Whatever.
We go with.
Anyway, we know we got it. We're good.
Yeah.
fun stuff, friendly.
I mean, RDJ is
competition.
also literally twice Timothée Chalamet's age, right? He's like 60 and Timothy's like 30.
I think so.
Yeah.
Nice friendly competition. Speaking of Marvel, though, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange director Sam Raimi reveals his biggest criticism of today's superhero movies, and I thought this was really funny because, of course, you go on like, you fucking like Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, all these people are like, oh yes, amusement parks, they're dog shit, they're this, that, and the other thing. But what's Sam Raimi's criticism is that they don't offer me more of them. He's like, guys, literally the thing that put me on the map outside of Evil Dead. Give me more fucking superhero movies, you assholes. Come on, I'm right here. I'm still at my prime. I'm gonna fucking come out with an excellent Rachel McAdams movie with Send Help. Give me more fucking superhero movies. Hello, I'm a comic book fan. Gimme. So I just love that. I thought that was great.
No, it's a very
He's
red herring
wanted
sort of
to
a
do
headline.
Batman
Yeah.
for so long. Like I remember when he was trying. I think he tried to campaign for Batman '89, but he just did not have clout at the time because like he only had like he only had the Evil Dead movies to his name, and they're like, we're not doing that. But to be fair, Tim Burton didn't have that much clout either, so I think he like tried, he failed. He wanted to do The Shadow, but I think the rights were already bought by somebody else, and then that Alec Baldwin movie eventually got made in the 90s. So he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna make my own. So then he made Darkman. So that was which was not the greatest thing ever, but you know, it was a fun movie. But you know, I think he would be great. Like honestly, get fucking rid of Andy Muschietti and make Sam Raimi the director of fucking Brave and the Bold. Do it, James Gunn. And then while you're at it, fucking shoot Tom King in the head, and then boom, you got rid of all your assholes that nobody wants to see in their fucking DCU. Boom, perfect. Anyway,
cool. All right, moving on.
Yes, Emilia Clarke is done with the fantasy genre after Game of Thrones. You're unlikely to see me get on a dragon ever again. With how season 8 turned out, yeah, that's totally understandable. Girly, you don't have to worry about that. We get it. Trust me. Anyway, next up, Hans Zimmer to compose Harry Potter HBO series original score with Bleeding Fingers music. Man, WB is just really fucking desperate for this to become a hit. They're like, all right, bring in the Zimmer. All right. Yep. All right. We got to get John Lithgow on this. We got to get this. All right. Let's bring in the big guns. Got to bring in Hans Zimmer on this. All right. Come on.
Well, I mean, John, I looked at this and I was like, this is a pretty big deal. Like, and this wouldn't be the first time that Hans Zimmer takes over an iconic score from John Williams, because John Williams did the original Superman score, and I feel even to this day, every other Superman score outside of the one that Hans Zimmer did for Man of Steel is sort of in a way paying homage to and using cues from the John Williams score. But the one Hans Zimmer did was completely original, and I think equally as good and almost equally as iconic as the John Williams score. Harry Potter is one of those things. Harry Potter is partly recognized by just the score itself. It's Harry Potter. And can Hans Zimmer work on that? And by the way, hello, Travis. And
then Hans Zimmer's
build on
version
it?
will be blah 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 blah.
Okay, dude, he just did the F1 score that had nothing to do with like that hardcore or hard rock anyway, or the like whatever that sound is. But I can't wait to see this. I mean, he's also working with the other members of his Bleeding Fingers music group that he started, so he's got a bunch of his proteges working with him. But yeah, I wonder if he's gonna build on the original score by Hans Zimmer, or if he's gonna do something completely original. That to me is the real question.
You said original score by Hans Zimmer. He's like, he hasn't done anything yet.
Sorry.
Anyway.
Sorry, my bad.
But next up, The Pit Season 2 premiere ratings soar. HBO Max says more than 7 million people have watched the debut episode in its first week. Yeah, because this show has an iron grip on this country for some reason. I mean, I'm sure it's amazing. I'm just like, damn. Like,
I mean, the first season won so many Emmys. They're doing that whole one season every year thing. It's production is cheaper than most streaming shows these days. Like, it's sustainably
it's all
produced.
in one location. It's all. It's
yeah.
literally
It's 24
in a hospital. Like, that's the show.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, clearly, because Noah Wyle just literally got the Golden Globe. I think The Pit got Best Drama Series, right? Also,
it did.
The Golden Globes.
And also, like, I forget. Yeah, Noah, like, he won the best actor.
Noah and the show won. I don't think anybody else won. But in terms of the Golden Globes, they won a shit ton of Emmys. They've won a lot. Noah Wyle has won a lot. So you know. That makes sense. It's like my dad has gone on and on and on about how fucking amazing this show is. I believe him. Like, it's on my list. I need to watch so many shows, and this is definitely one of them. So, you know.
Agreed. Well, good for the. I hope that episode 2 is just as good, airing tonight. Yeah, it is really good. Thank you, Bane, and hello to you, Bane. We'll be getting to DC news in a bit, but let's keep on rolling with the crickets.
We're going from another hit show to very different hit show, but the Heated Rivalry soundtrack is here, and soon you'll be able to own it on vinyl. So all you pretentious nerds out there can finally own the Gay Show on vinyl soundtrack. Cool, perfect, way to go.
It is great for binging, John. I actually binged all 6 episodes in one night. As Fiona wanted to watch it with me, she fell asleep while we were watching it. So then I
isn't it 15 episodes?
No, it's 6 episodes.
The Pit season 1, it was like 15.
No. I'm talking about Heated Rivalry. What are you? I'm talking about the story. Heated Rivalry is 6 episodes. No,
okay,
but you're right. The Pit is 15. The Pit is 15. Heated Rivalry is 6 episodes.
Wait, I don't know if M2G was talking about the Pit great for binging or Heated Rivalry.
Oh, he was talking about the Pit. Okay,
yeah,
never
okay,
mind.
That's what I thought he was talking about, because the thing is, it makes sense, because the Pit is like, again, it's like one shift over the course of 15 hours. So I'm like, that makes way more sense. But I mean, I'm sure this is great for binging too. It's also great to fucking probably jerk off to, because that's what women are probably doing to this goddamn show.
Not just women, but the Heated Rivalry phenomenon, as you could call it now. Yeah, the soundtrack is out. It's gonna be available on vinyl. So if you're a fan of it, I mean, 34
if
tracks.
They can't even be less subtle about this. The composer's name is literally Peter. Like, Peter. Just name him Dick Johnson and just get it over with. Jesus Christ.
I don't think the soundtrack includes the sound mix. It's just the score, everybody.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's just like what is this alternate name? Lance Hardwood, sex composer? Like, hello.
It's also got hockey in it. It's got a lot of hockey in it. But yeah.
Kidding aside, I'm sure the soundtrack is great. I'm sure the show is.
Everybody
great.
Watches this show for the plot, John.
It's
for the plot.
Okay, I kid around. I'm sure it's a great show, but like,
Yeah, and Canadian on top.
But Anyway, Omari Hardwick joins Gerard Butler and Haley Atwell in hostage crisis pick Empire City, filming underway in Australia. Cool. Anyway, Glenn Powell, Sam Esmail team for mystery sci-fi thriller Tesseract for Amazon MGM and United Artists. The Mr. Robot creator wrote the script and will direct the feature. Last movie he directed was kind of iffy. I liked the movie, but a lot of people didn't. So we'll see how this goes.
I just hope that it has a better result than The Running Man did at the box office, because the idea is, I would love another mystery sci-fi thriller, especially one that's called Tesseract. I mean, if that has anything to do with the movie, it's plot. And you got Glenn Powell in there and Sam Esmail, who's, again, Mr. Robot is amazing, but like you said, his last movie was hit or miss. So we'll see.
I thought it was a good
all
movie,
the ideas.
But I get why people didn't like it. So
yeah.
Anyway,
fair enough.
And then God of War live action series casts Ryan Hurst as Kratos, the man famously in Sons of Anarchy, as well as already playing a character in the video game franchise as Thor in God of War Ragnarok. So, he's already connected to the franchise. What's up. So when Ronald D. Moore makes an ass of himself by not knowing the video game because he's an idiot who played it for 2 seconds and then put it down because he's stupid, Ryan Hurst will come in and be like, hey, fuck Wad. I know what I'm talking about. I know I've been in this shit. So, like, sit your ass down, Ron, and I got this. So, you know.
Is that to tell us how you really feel, John? Is that do you really believe that?
I loved Outlander for the first like 4 or 5 seasons. I love For All Mankind. Although that season 3 subplot with the Stevens brothers fucking made me want to put a gun in my mouth, but like outside of that, the show has been great. But it's just like Ronald D. Moore, play the game. Stop being a pussy and fucking play the game like a goddamn adult. You fucking whiny ass bitch. Anyway, Ryan Hurst, Kratos, good casting.
Yeah. I mean,
Teresa Palmer.
Christopher Judge was probably a bit
cast
old.
as Sif, by the way. That was another bit of casting news. I don't know if we put it here, but yeah, Teresa
I don't think
Palmer's
we
gonna be in
did.
the show.
Yep. Teresa Palmer, okay. As Sif. That's awesome. Teresa Palmer, great news. Keep on keeping on Amazon.
Well, more casting news. They're being Cate Blanchett with the budget, guys, because Cate Blanchett is returning as Valka for How to Train Your Dragon 2. It's just like don't try to be fucking unique. Just like, all right, it worked before, fucking do it again, I guess.
Well, Dean DeBlois is still writing and directing.
Shell as Hiccup again, like Jesus.
Yep. No, it's you know what? This could work really well. The first live action remake, I think, did amazing. So considering like the expectations weren't really high. So Cate Blanchett, look, again, she's one of those actors like Ralph Fiennes. She treats every role with the same level of respect and puts in the same amount of work, and that's why Oliver takes, whether it's a superhero movie like Thor Ragnarok or whether it's an awards caliber movie that she does pretty much every year, she's nominated for an Oscar. I can't wait to see her back, and now she's not going to be animated. We get to see her in the flesh, and yeah, Cate Blanchett with a budget. Looking forward to it. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm. But next thing we have Anne Hathaway to star in true crime drama Fear Not at Paramount Plus. The limited series is based on a Vanity Fair article, and it's being adapted by Bash Duran. Okay, don't care. BBC
Sounds
in
interesting.
talks to produce content for YouTube in landmark deal. This is interesting.
So basically every other British network like Channel 4, ITV, and so on, and BBC up until now, they would put a lot of their stuff that shows that are on their networks on YouTube as like in addition to. So basically, like it was the same content you get to see on television, but then also on YouTube. But this deal is different because in the UK, this will be the first time a network like BBC would be creating original programming for YouTube. That's gonna be also available on BBC iPlayer and stuff down the road. But ultimately, they've never made YouTube specific shows. So I think if you're in the UK, this is a big deal. So if you guys who are watching, if you're in the UK, then look forward to seeing some YouTube exclusive BBC content. Maybe they'll revive Top Gear again and make it a YouTube exclusive. That would be something interesting. I can't wait to see what they come up with, because also if it's on YouTube, it's pretty much available everywhere in the world. It's not just going to be exclusive to certain parts of the world. So that to me, I think is a positive as well.
Yes, and then next up, apparently San Diego Comic-Con has banned AI-generated artwork from its event due to artist protests. Material created by AI, either partially or wholly, is not allowed in the art show. This comes after backlash from artists after SDCC initially indicated AI-generated work would be allowed. Cool.
Yeah, it looks like San Diego Comic-Con is not going to allow any AI-generated work, which I think we're going to get to see more and more of this happening in the coming years.
Yes. E! is developing a show where canceled celebrities live together in a house and work on redemption. Yeah, I can't see this going south.
I was like, this is the definition of a quick hit. What could go wrong? Like the producers were wondering how can we top ourselves, and I think they came up with a good idea for that. So let's see what goes wrong.
We'll see how it goes wrong. Speaking of things going wrong, apparently J.J. Abrams' new film, The Great Beyond, will release on November 13th, 2026 in theaters. It's going to star Glenn Powell, Jenna Ortega, Samuel L. Jackson, and Emma Mackey. Rumored to follow an author who reveals that the mythical world he's known for writing about is actually real. when you're in a ripping off classic movies competition, but your contemporary is J.J. Abrams, because this is literally just in the mouth of madness. This is just in the mouth of madness, and it'll be shittier because it's J.J. Abrams directing it. So can't wait for that, because his entire fucking career is built on ripping off way better works and making them worse.
Well, I mean, look, Glenn Powell is in everything nowadays. So another Glenn Powell project. That's what I looked at. Yeah, we'll see. I don't have no expectations. I don't really know much about this, but I would take another Glenn Powell movie and Jenna Ortega. I mean, again, you got the actors. We'll see how good of a movie it is, if at all anything. But that's it. That's all the quickest we got for y'all. Let us know what you thought about all the quickest, the news. Get in the comments. Hit the like button if you're watching us live. If you're watching us after the fact, hit the like button if you're enjoying. Hit subscribe if you're new here, and hit the notification bell so you know when we're live. But, John, we're not done yet. Now it's time to get into DC news proper. Because, of course, as per always, as James Gunn likes to say, we've been blessed from the beginning, and we shall continue to be blessed till the
It's
end.
another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot, right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts. Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in the stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you want to shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all in the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto.
Hunka hunka.
All right, welcome on into another episode of DCU Daily, and yeah, victory mine or ours. And we're gonna talk about a ton of DC news. We're gonna get into the whole Mr. Miracle and Darkseid and being canon in the DCU. I mean, we haven't even gotten two theatrical DCU movies, and they thought they brought in Darkseid too early in the DCEU. Well, they've already cast a Darkseid apparently in the new DCU, but maybe not a live action version. But James Gunn says that whoever's voicing the character will ultimately end up playing them in live action. So what does all that mean? We'll get into that. Of course, we have a confirmation on where in the DCU timeline Creature Commandos Season 2 takes place. And there's some controversy going on around how, HBO Max has recently removed a ton of DC titles. So we'll get into that as well. And then there's some more Tom King talking about Lantern. So I'm sure John will love that news. We got a little bit of...
he said sarcastically.
We have some Lobo, Supergirl, and Batman Part 2 stuff to get into. And of course, we got another edition of What Did Gunn Say? John, what's your favorite part of DC today, DCU Daily, that you like to get into?
I don't know, when I eventually rip Tom King a new asshole like he always deserves on a daily fucking basis.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And on that note, let's dive into the DC quick hits, shall we, John? Let's walk through some of those quick hits.
But yes, the first one we have is this Flash star Sasha Calle on why she's grateful for Supergirl role and possible comic book movie return. So, she said, I'm so grateful. Someone mentioned today the video when Andy Muschietti calls me and tells me that I got the job. And I still remember the feeling was so surreal. And it's taken me to a place where I get to work with Ben and Matt and Tiana and Catalina, Steven, Kyle. I'm so utterly grateful that it's brought me into this world where I can make art. I loved it. I don't know. It depends. If I get a call, I'm open to receiving it. So, yeah. I mean, she was probably the best part about a pretty terrible movie, but I'm glad it's, they're starting fresh, they're starting clean, and they're moving on to somebody else. Not like she's undeserving of the role. It's just like she was just kind of stuck in a crap movie and, part of a dying universe, and, maybe in an story she can come back.
Yeah, I mean, when I read this story and I read about, again, they highlight what the potential plan for DCEU was, bringing in Michael Keaton as the Batman and then essentially replacing Henry Cavill's Superman with the Sasha Calle version of Supergirl. I was like, Dude, those were some terrible ideas. But anyway, Sasha Calle, the Calle Callie, whatever, like however you say her last name. The last time she'd mentioned anything about this movie, she was like, I was kind of confused why they went in a different direction and how things changed. So I mean, some people took that to be ungrateful almost, but clearly here she's like, look, I'm open to ideas. She's doing. She mentioned all this, by the way, while she was doing an interview promoting the movie The Rip that's coming on. I think that's out on Netflix now or coming out soon. That where she's co-starring alongside Matt Damon and Ben
That's
Affleck.
what
Of
she
course,
was
Ben
talking
Affleck
about when she was talking about
was
with Ben
Batman.
and Matt and
Yeah.
Tiana
So
Taylor and all that. So
exactly, and then Tiana Taylor, of course, just won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress and stuff. So like, yeah, I mean, she mentioned that look, regardless of how it went, it gave her the launching point for her career to like then work with these great actors and do what she's able to do now because it really put her on the map despite the fact that it wasn't the greatest movie. I mean, it certainly wasn't very popular. And you know what? Good on Sasha, because like she's open to more opportunities, and I think as she's finding more success in her career, then it just kind of she's now looking at it like, all right, I know how the business works, and some things work out, some things don't. I'm open to more opportunities, and you know what? If it helps pay the bills, or if it's something that I really want to do, everybody has their dream role, and I don't know if this was her dream role, but it certainly was very exciting for her to play Supergirl, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get to see her version of Supergirl in some kind of multiverse Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover down the line. So, yeah, I mean, Pacerland, hello, saying Zatanna would be perfect for her. That is a pretty good idea, actually. So, yeah, I mean, there's opportunities, and the DCU is still only just beginning. So, I'm sure James Gunn would look in her direction if he thought there was a role that was a good fit for her. But yeah, let's keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Warner Brothers film bosses believe Joker Folie à Deux failed because it was too revisionist for moviegoers. Pam Abdi was saying, I really liked the movie, I still do. Michael DeLuca saying it was really revisionist. It may be that it was too revisionist for a global mainstream audience, but I thought that Todd and his screenwriting partner Scott Silver did the thing that most people making sequels don't do, which is they decide to not repeat themselves. I do give them immense props for not repeating themselves, but it just turned out to not connect with the audience. So, yeah.
I mean, do you think that was the reason though? Because I don't think doing something different was the reason why the movie failed. I think what they did do just didn't work. I think that ultimately it wasn't like I think that they're implying here. I mean, look again, it's subjective, and I'm sure Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi loved the idea. That's why they let it go through. But we have all heard how Todd Phillips basically had literal Kate Blanchett with the budget and the creative. Like he took no notes, and yeah. I, look, the box office speaks for itself. The first movie made $1 billion. The second one didn't even make half that. So, uh, good on the Warner Brothers, bosses for believing in this movie, but they're not in charge of DC anymore. So it's all James Gunn from here on out. And yeah, so
Yeah.
it's in the
I
past.
still have my Folie à Deux poster up there on my closet. So, yeah, good times. I still like it more than the original. I don't give a fuck. Anyway. Apparently HBO Max has suddenly removed over 75 DC shows and movies in terms of international audience, for some international territories. So it does have the list. I'm not going to go through everyone, but it's going through. These are all of them. You can take a look. Like some of the titles are Batman Year One, All Star Superman, Batman Brave and the Bold, Wonder Woman, the Green Lantern, the animated series, Red Sun, a lot of the
And I saw Batman Beyond in there, I think. Am I right about that?
a lot of the DC AMU, a lot of those. A couple Tomorrowverse movies, Superman Unbound, that kind of thing. So yeah, sorry for some international audiences. You won't be able to see these movies. I'm very sorry, guys, but just ride the high seas with a bottle of rum. Best you can do, or get a VPN.
Well, I mean, look, all I'll say is in most cases when this happens, these movies will end up on some other service. They're not disappearing forever. It's also probably not going to stay this way forever. So it's just the way the rights work. And like, this.
Oh.
Did I just drop off there for a bit?
You dropped off
Sorry.
a little bit. What were you trying to say, buddy?
Yeah. Anyway, I was just saying this is just how the rights work for these titles. They'll end up on some other streaming service. Yeah, or like just buy it. Maybe if you really love it, then you can go and this is an opportunity to go buy it on digital or on physical media, and then that way you never have to worry about it disappearing off some streaming service. Um, by the way, I agree with Dark Lead Eric's argument about Harley Quinn being like a real like villain, and in a way that is not your typical superhero
Yeah.
movie
I
villain
mean,
character.
she's one of the few Harley Quinn adaptations I actually like. So there's that. I mean, that and then the Telltale one was like flipped on its head. I really liked that as well. And then I liked the Harley Quinn animated show one for the first season. I thought it was like a good balance of like annoying and like modern stuff, but also like kind of what the character was. And then they were just like, let's make her a lesbian because that's what everybody wants. So, like, just do that. And then it kind of ruined the characters surrounding them. And then, luckily, my boy Kite Man came back and created a better show than, Harley Quinn will ever be, that we're probably never going to get a second season of. But that's why we can't have nice things. So, Kite Man, hell yeah. James Gunn, renew it for season 2 or you'll be sorry. Anyway.
I'm sure you can send James Gunn a message on Threads and he'll respond to you, and then we'll just talk about it and what did Gunn say.
Yes.
But until then, let's keep on going.
The same award show that awarded a dog over 5 actual human actors, because they're based like that, also awarded Superman Best Action or Sci-Fi Feature at the Astro Film Awards. So congratulations to Superman, and I think we're hyping it up just like the people in Squid Game in that GIF that somebody posted.
Yeah, I saw the clip where they get this award because it wasn't a televised thing, but obviously people were there taking video. And there was there was a representative of DC Studios. It wasn't like James Gunn or Peter Safran. He thanked everybody, from the film and of course the team at DC Studios, and on behalf, he was there on behalf of DC Studios, and yeah. Good on Superman. I don't know if he's gonna win Best Picture at the Oscars or anything big like that, but
no,
it's good that it's getting recognition in these more niche awards as Superman deserves.
Speaking of niche awards, it landed 4 Visual Effects Society Award nominations, which is Outstanding Character in a Photoreal Feature, Crypto, Outstanding Effects Simulation in a Photoreal Feature, Metropolis City Destruction, Outstanding Model in a Photoreal or Animated Project, Fortress of Solitude, and then Outstanding Compositing and Lighting in a Feature, Fights and Metropolis City Destruction. So yeah, good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
Good stuff indeed. I like this. Visual effects is one of those standout parts of this movie, and I think if it stands to make any ground at the big awards like the Oscars and stuff, and I mean the VFX awards like the VES, the Visual Effects Society, which is the VFX union, this is the strength of the movie in a lot of those technical categories. So I can't wait for this. Outstanding Character, Crypto, I think could definitely win it in a photoreal movie. I just watched Superman the other day. I enjoyed it even more than I did the first time. My rating for it might have gone up a little bit. So yeah, it's a good film. It's still not a perfect film. There are some inconsistencies,
but it's like perfect in its execution of like, yeah, this is nice.
It gets Superman's, like, again, Superman means a lot of things. So I'm not going to say this is the definitive version of Superman, because Superman means a lot of things. And I do believe the Man of Steel version of Superman is also a valid iteration, and again, that's my opinion, but I think
it's a valid it's valid, but I just simply don't agree with it. Like,
and that's
the
fair.
way I view it, like in all things serious, in all things like ignoring jokes and all that stuff, like I believe every adaptation of Superman is correct, because there is at some point in the comics that can validate such an iteration. But it's just one I simply don't agree with. And if someone else agrees with it, that's fine. That's their prerogative. But it's just, I don't think that's Superman to me. But is it a good movie? Well, I don't really think it's that good of a movie. I like, in terms of the Zack Snyder DCEU movies, I liked Justice League the most, his version. But the other movies just failed to impress me and have more misses than hits. So that's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, I just thought it got the kindness and like the almost like the naivete of Superman or Clark, and just again the like Man of Steel just felt really dark at times, and I just love how Superman, kind of brings us back that hope, the idea of hope around Superman in
What
a
we
more,
need.
yeah, exactly, in a more less nuanced, more in your face way, which I think the world needs right now. And yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So my rating went up. I mean, and Movie Spot saying the more times they saw it, their rating kept on going up. So yeah, I guess I'll keep watching it, and then eventually I'll give it a perfect 10 out of 10. I don't know if that will happen, but it certainly will go up. So that's good. That's a good
But
sign.
next up, apparently, according to James Gunn, Creature Commander Season 2 is in production and will be set post Peacemaker Season 2. We already confirmed this part, this tweet, whatever the fuck, thread, whatever. When we're done animating the new season, which is in production now, does the new season take place before, during, or after Peacemaker Season 2? And he said after. So we'll see
Yeah.
where Rick Flag Sr. is in regards
Yeah,
to all this.
so it does confirm like the timeline. It's happened so far. These shows are playing one after the other. It's not like this is gonna go back in time. So like you said, the effect, the ramifications of Peacemaker Season 2 will in some way or another play out in Creature Commando Season 2. So there we go. All right, let's keep on rolling. Wait,
Oh,
MTG
boy.
saw Superman 10 times in theaters? Oh my god, MTG. Damn. That might beat actually or tie Liz's record for having seen Endgame that many times in theaters, which is also crazy.
But next up, Tom King talks about Kyle Chandler's role as Hal Jordan in Lanterns. He occupied this character in a way he just fit it so perfectly. That combination of arrogance, a grounded arrogance, Kyle just immediately got it. Although someone was kind of dunking on him, so Kyle played himself laughing. But then he's saying, "You got cooked, little bro." So, we'll see how this goes. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong. I don't know. I just know that this man has just call him, he belongs in an Assassin's Creed game with how many character assassinations he's done over the years in his time at DC. So, we'll just, keep on keeping on. And speaking of keep on keeping on, he said the same thing about Aaron Pierre.
Nice,
He is
Steven.
John Stewart. The first time I met him, I was like, "Oh my god, you're a superhero." So, I think that's nice. I mean, I'll wait and see because I'm gonna have to fucking dig through hell to fucking watch this garbage. But we'll see if he's right. I just want him to stay away from DC because he doesn't understand these characters. I'm 100% convinced this dude has like blackmail on Jim Lee and James Gunn. That's why he still fucking keeps getting work, because I'm like, nobody can glaze this shitty of a writer this long, how highly, if you don't have blackmail on them. I mean, he was a CIA analyst. Like, he definitely knows how to do that shit. So, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
There's not much to go off here, and Tom King isn't a director. He's also not like the showrunner, so his word only takes me so far. Like it is for
Yeah.
me. It's neither here nor there. Like I gotta wait for the show itself to like prove anything to me. So yeah.
Yep. Anywho, but in regards to, is that enough quick hits, or we still have? No, we
No, we got a few more. We got a few more. Beyond Tom King, we got to talk about Jason Momoa, The Batman Part 2, and well, we got some Zack Snyder stuff on the show today.
Yeah. And,
And some
Jason
DC
Momoa
Comics
on
news.
playing Lobo in Supergirl, and after this, the Snyder bots will have to be on Suicide Watch. He's amazing. It's my ultimate dream to play Lobo. I wanted to play him more than Aquaman. This is it.
Not me. Yeah.
Damn. That's crazy, but like, I mean, he's loved this character for years. He literally looks like the character IRL. So, I
just remember we talked about how in the Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, in the behind the scenes interviews that were included in the physical media release, they included like this bit where I'm forgetting his name. Patrick
Wilson.
Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa are talking about when Zack Snyder brought Momoa in for the role of Aquaman, and was just kind of like tease it out, and just he was like, guess who you're gonna play? And Jason was like, oh yeah, Lobo. I'm gonna play Lobo. I was like, and he's like, no, who's Lobo? And of course I'm paraphrasing here, and then. And Mo was like, I thought it was perfect to play Lobo. I thought that's what they brought me in to do. And then he said, you're going to play Aquaman. You'll be perfect for it. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, so, like, and then again, I don't think Jason Momoa was trying to dunk on Zack Snyder, but it was just like, yeah, it's staring you in the face. But clearly we didn't even get a Lobo in the DCEU, so it's not even relevant in that sense. But I can't wait to see what this turns into and how much of Lobo we get in the film. So, let's see. Supergirl is now what, like 5 months away?
5-ish months away.
5-ish months away. Yeah, it will be here in no time. So, and Lobo will be a big part of it, regardless of how much screen time he gets. So, yeah.
Next, filming has concluded on David Fincher's production of The Adventures of Cliff Booth. Cinematographer Eric Messerschmitt's next project will be The Batman 2. Yay!
So basically, the new director of photography, because I forget the name of the guy who did the first one.
Greg Fraser. He's going to
he's doing Dune Part 3.
Dune Messiah. Yeah.
Dune Messiah. So they've got a new DP, and that he just finished working on the David Fincher spin-off sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's not directed. So David Fincher directing it, not Tarantino. The Adventures of Cliff Booth, and now he's done with that, he's going to move on to the Batman Part 2. This is great timing from a production standpoint. We know the Batman Part 2 is going to go into production this spring, and they might even already be doing some, starting to at least do some second unit photography in Liverpool and parts of Glasgow, which is basically stuff with stuntmen and stuff. And that's, remember, the first Batman movie. Those are the first looks we got at the suit, were when the stuntman was driving the bat bike, and it was, even though it was ultimately in the movie like the last thing we see, but that was some of the first stuff they shot. So the Batman Part 2 will start production in a couple of months, and from a production standpoint, this is about the time that the DP and all the other department heads would walk in and be like, all right, well, now let's prep this, and then we'll go shoot the movie. And they've already probably had some conversations with Matt Reeves, but now Eric will be all in, and that's his next project. So again, it just, we're getting closer and closer to the Batman Part 2 finally becoming a reality after 5 years since the first movie came out. I mean, it certainly will be 5 years and then some by the time it actually comes out. It's been 3+ years now since the movie came. So yeah, it makes it more tangible. And the fact that he's been working on a David Fincher movie leading into the Batman Part 2, John, I think he will be in the right mindset, don't you think?
Sure.
Yeah.
But next up, Zack Snyder once again posting early images of Henry Cavill as Superman, and he's saying he's literally hope personified. Yeah, the guy who says nobody stays good in this world, really hope personified. Yeah.
And that's also the BVS suit, you could tell. So I can't even defend that this is technically the Man of Steel suit.
No, it's the Man of Steel suit, because the yellow behind it is yellow, not gold. Plus he has the hair pimped up. It's poofy.
Okay.
Not down, and plus the suit itself is much darker. It's more of a navy blue instead of the brighter blue that it was in BVS.
Right. You know what? I actually prefer the Man of Steel suit, and I like the size of the S.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I still think Henry Cavill was a great Superman, but yeah, I mean, Zack Snyder, hope personified. The movie was not always that. So. Let's move on to the next quick hit, shall we? Going from Henry Cavill's Man of Steel to Bizarro Year None?
Year None, The Fury of Firesummon Zatanna for April's Next Level Comics. So Bizarro Year None #1 goes on sale in April. And then in terms of DC Next Level, it's probably their fucking 17th reboot in the last 3 years. including Batwoman by Greg Rucka and Don E, Deathstroke the Terminator by Tony Fleecs and
Agreed,
Carmine
Charlie.
Di Giandomenico, probably pronouncing that wrong, Lobo by Scotty Young and Jorge Corona. And April will see the launch of two bold new comic book series that push magic, mystery, and raw power into uncharted territory, which are Zatanna by Jamal Campbell and Fury of Firestorm by Jeff Lemire and Rafael de la Torre, both of which promise to expand DC's next level initiative. So yeah, if you were excited for the comic book side of things, then that's what's going to come out in April with DC Next Level. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I assume
I still think the best
reboot.
stuff that they're doing is the Absolute Universe. It's certainly the most popular stuff. And after the year that they had, I would hope that they keep building on that too. So yeah, but hey, if you're a DC comic book fan, then you got plenty of options this year.
So it's essentially
yeah.
it's a publishing initiative to feature underutilized and fan favorite characters. That's essentially what it is. So
That makes
which
sense.
is nice.
You know what? And yeah, great representation. That's what we like to see. But that's all the DC quickest that we got. Now we move on to what did Gunn say? Ring ding ding ding
ding
okay.
ding ding. Anyway.
Ding 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 ding. Okay. And on what did Gunn say today? We got to talk about the Batman Brave and the Bold, which we'll be talking about again at Fancast Friday right after this show because we'll be casting the new DCU Alfred. But before we get that far, John, James Gunn specifically was being asked about, or there were reports going around that the Brave and the Bold is eyeing a 2028 release date, and James Gunn jumped in to swiftly address the rumor. Care to walk us through this? Because I thought this was again James Gunn
just
dunking on
very
people.
simple. He was just saying Dread Central was like, oh, it's going to come out in 2028. And James Gunn is like, nope, fiction. Sorry, screenplay isn't finished. Get fucked. So, yeah.
I think it was better than the one. It was at least better than that one word answer that he gave somebody, which was just like a nope. It's like, God, this is. Some of the put downs are so hard. I feel bad for the people that put this stuff out, only just not realizing that James Gunn will see it and James Gunn will correct you and do it in the most hardcore way possible. So anyway, good on James Gunn.
Yes, 100%. He tries to stay on top of it with all the bullshit rumors going out, but good for him. But next up, James Gunn celebrating Guy Gardner because happy anniversary to the best worst Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, who made his first appearance in Green Lantern number 59, written by John Broome with pencils by Gil Kane and ink by Side Green, however you pronounce that. Brought to life in full color by Nathan Fillion recently in Superman. You can see him next in Lanterns on HBO. Whether that's going to be good or not, we'll see, but
Well, I mean, Nathan Fillion, I should say, has been playing up the idea of how Guy Gardner's going to fit into the larger picture of the show. So yeah, this looks interesting. This looks like James Gunn is just again hyping up the heroes that he's working with, and we'll talk a little bit more about what he said about Mr. Miracle later. But again, you love to see it. Maybe this means that Guy Gardner will survive the Lantern show after all. So we'll see.
Anyway, then Superman has won the Golden Tomato Award for fan favorite action movie. DC Film News talked about this, but then this little thing
What did
right
Gunn
here,
say?
James Gunn actually was, like retweeted that. So he's like, hell yeah.
It was like high five.
Boom. Could have had a V8. Anyway. But thank you, James Gunn, for that little bit. And probably the biggest news of today is the fact that James Gunn has confirmed that the Mr. Miracle animated series is not only happening, but it is set in the DCU and it has a dark side. So the first thing, obviously, James Gunn in specifically an Instagram post. Obviously, this is just an article about it. We can go to the Instagram post right here. But he he had to edit it, so I'm curious with what the original fucking Instagram post said, but he said this for now. The world's greatest. Oops, sorry about that. Accidentally clicked. The world's greatest escape artist made his debut on this day 55 years ago in 1971. Happy anniversary to Mr. Miracle, who debuted in Mr. Miracle #1, written by Jack Kirby, with pencils by Jack Kirby and inks by Vince Colletta, very infamous name in the pantheon of DC comic history. Soon to be seen in our DCU animated show based on the 12-issue comic book series from Tom King and Mitch Gerard. So, yeah, he has confirmed that Mr. Miracle is not only 100%, because it was like kind of rumblings that it's probably going to happen. It wasn't 100% confirmed, but it's like, yeah, it's probably going to happen. But it's definitely confirmed that it is going to take place in DCU canon. When that is, we don't know. But Mr. Miracle, the 12-issue series that Tom King did many years ago, it was pretty much separate on its own. It was just kind of the New Gods characters, very much its tiny little thing. So I'm curious about it, because this was one of the few things I didn't hate from Tom King. I mean, the series was fine. I mean, there was a lot of character assassination in that, but it was like, for the most part, it's okay. But it's similar with Woman of Tomorrow. It's saved by the great and surreal art that showcased. So I mean, I'm not exactly excited for this, because again, I do not understand why James Gunn has this gigantic boner for Tom King. So, it perplexes me. But unlike Lanterns, where they've just said every wrong thing, I'll wait until more is said about it before I really put my stamp of approval or my stamp of denial on it. But yeah.
I was just gonna say, the fact that James, because this obviously caused a whole shitstorm, not shitstorm, but like a whole storm of news activity around it. Like, oh my god, he confirmed the New Gods are in the DCU already, and Mr. Miracle is, canon to the DCU, and Big Barda is canon to the DCU, and Darkseid maybe. And I just love how James, Gunn just literally snuck that in. Because if you look at it, primarily this was meant to be a post that's celebrating an anniversary for Mr. Miracle. But then he just like halfway, like almost towards the bottom, just nonchalantly puts down, oh, and by the way, it's gonna be canon to the DCU. And is this like 12? It's based on, of course, Tom King's 12-issue comic book series. But oh, by the way, it's in the DCU. So it's just like, really? Like, James Gunn, you know what you're doing. Because we know, like, My Adventures with Green Lantern and the Starfire series, those animated shows, they aren't going to be part of the DC continuity. But then this Mr. Miracle show kind of, like, came out of nowhere, completely separate from all those and the other announcements. And yet, here we are, John. And, of course, he also addressed the idea that, he's not planning, James Gunn is not planning on using some of these characters in the live action DCU anytime soon, but we did get confirmation recently, pretty much this week, that Darkseid is also going to be in the show. And while Gunn was, praising Zack Snyder, saying to give you probably more of an answer than you expected, using Darkseid as the big bad right now is not necessarily the thing for a lot of reasons. Zack Snyder did it so cool in his way, and because of Thanos and Marvel. So he's saying because Thanos was a recent, villain, and who knows if they're going to bring him back in Doomsday or Secret Wars. And then, of course, Darkseid we saw in the Snyder Cut not that long ago. He doesn't want to make Darkseid the big villain right now. But that doesn't mean they can't have Darkseid in the DCU as like a character that exists. But then also the Hollywood Reporter gave us this whole description, which talks about like what we're going to get to see. Maybe we'll get to see some of the origins of Mr. Miracle, and of course the apocalypse and New Genesis and the New Gods, the anti-life equation, and how Mr. Miracle, he's got a pretty tragic. Would you say it's a tragic story? Because I mean that implies that there's
Very
like an
much so.
ending to it.
I mean,
yeah.
It's pretty tragic, considering, like, in order to keep the deal between New Genesis and Apocalypse, they essentially switched sons, and Mr. Miracle was forced to live on Apocalypse while Orion lived on New Genesis, and Mr. Miracle had to become like essentially the best escape artist in the universe in order to escape Apocalypse, in order to escape its terror, and he escaped to Earth and then became what was known as Mr. Miracle from Thaddeus Brown, the character of Scott Free, that is. So, I think that this, I mean, I would be a little bit more excited about it if Tom King wasn't a part of it, but this, I mean, the Tom King stuff wasn't terrible in terms of this one comic. It was like perfectly served. It was like a 6 out of 10, like, which is more than I could say for some of the other Tom King garbage I've read. So, but they also did confirm in regards to all of this that, Tom King himself confirmed the animated series has cast the DCU's Darkseid. Obviously, it won't be, he also subtly mentioned that we got to cast Orion, who has a brief role in the comic book series, the series he wrote. So, there's that as well.
John, that's some pretty big news. We now have the DCU Darkseid and Orion already cast for the show. So I'm going to ask you a two-part question. And let's start with Orion, and then we'll talk about Darkseid. Who do you think the cast for Orion, or who would you like to see cast as Orion? Because the really big implication here is James Gunn has mentioned many times before, and he's stuck on it by his guns on this. Pun not intended, or maybe so. That in most instances, because I know that we have had what am I forgetting? Alan Tudyk voice multiple characters so far in the DCU, but he's only ever gonna appear in live action as one definitive character, right? Whichever one that ends up being. But like David Harbour was in season 1, like as one of the voices of Creature Commandos. So we know that if those sets of characters end up in live action, those same actors who voiced them in animation will then play them in live action. What does that mean? And then keeping that in mind, who do you think can be playing Orion where they'd be perfect as the voice actor, and then they can just take over the role in live action down the road?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how they take this. I mean, obviously there has to be special care with it. And from what he has said in the article, it seems like he's also already cast Big Barda and Scott Free. Obviously, will because the way he simply says, "Oh, we cast Darkseid, we cast Orion," and then Scott Free and Barda were the big ones. So it seems
they're pretty
like
far
he's
along
already
on
cast
this.
them, but maybe he hasn't. I don't know. But like the wording is vague, and I'm assume that's on purpose because the reason that James Gunn is called James Gunn is because he always has a gun on the back of someone's head if they say the wrong thing. So,
well, this is, I mean, I don't even know if this particular quote is not from James Gunn, is it?
No. I'm just saying, like, Tom King has to say that. Has to be vague about it, so James Gunn doesn't blow his brains out. So, although if my theory is correct that Tom King is blackmailing people, he has a gun to his head. So it's like that. It's like that scene in The Office, where it's like everyone has a gun on each other.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, John, and then on that same front, of course, the big news here is Darkseid. They already cast a Darkseid in the DCU. It wasn't very long ago that and like James Gunn mentioned, that we were getting a Darkseid in the Zack Snyder version of the Justice League movie. Who do you think they end up casting here? Because while the Darkseid in the DCEU was clearly always going to be a CGI character, so you don't need to pick. I forget the name of the actor who voiced him, but you didn't really need an actor who could also take over as, the live action version. Do you think that will be a similar approach here, or like who could they possibly pick to play Darkseid? Because you want to have that iconic, deeper voice.
Yeah.
But then, like,
obviously they're not going to pick Michael Ironside,
Yeah.
which I've seen a couple people comment about. It's not going to be Michael Ironside because he's just too old at this point to
like
portray
Hunter
that in
said.
live action because, he's I mean, plus he's played the character so many times that it's just like get somebody new, get fresh blood in here.
Agreed.
I think Ray Porter,
Thanks,
from
Tony.
what little he did a good job. Like, again, but he was as the character so small that it was just like whatever. But I think, yeah, get some fresh new blood in there, someone who has a really good voice, like a Christopher Judge. But thing is about Christopher Judge is that he's still at a good age where he could probably portray that in live action properly.
Indeed.
I just get someone with a really good voice, but get someone who's like at least in their 40s or 50s who can portray that Darkseid very well. So, yeah. So whatever it is, we'll see. I mean, the casting for the DCU has been good so far. So, but it's mainly just been James Gunn casting people. Obviously Gillespie's done a little bit, and like even for stuff I'm not excited for, like Supergirl and Lanterns, the casting has been good. Like Millie Alcock is good. Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler have been good. The Tom Reese, whatever I'm blanking on his name for Clayface. I think that was a good choice.
Tom
I
Rice
think,
something. I forget his, like, he's got like a hyphenated last name, I think, right?
yeah,
Somebody
it's like
will
Tom
tell
Reese
us.
Davies or something like that.
I think so. Yeah. Well,
Tom
one
Reese
of the
Harries. That's what
Tom
it
Reese
was. Tom Reese Harris.
Harry's. There you go. Yeah. Cool name. He sounds like a Brit. Is he Brit? I can't
He's
tell.
well, technically, but he's Welsh specifically.
I see. Got it. Okay. Well, I was just gonna say Christopher Judge would be a great pick, and that's not just because one of the coolest lines of dialogue that he's got in Stargate SG-1. He like goes up to this like military general that he doesn't really like, who's a pretty antagonistic character. I think he's like Colonel or General Mayborn or whatever his rank was at the time, and like he's really mad at him. And he's like, in my culture, I would be well within my rights to dismember you. And he says it in his like deep Christopher Judge voice, and I'm just like, I can't wait for that kind of aura to be in the DCU somewhere. And if he's gonna be playing Darkseid, I mean, dude, he's got the look, he's got the physique still,
like
he's got the screen presence.
If they did like a cinematic universe of the DCU like a long time ago, if they cast Darkseid a long time ago, who, like in like the maybe late 90s, early 2000s, who could have been really good? Michael Dorn could have been really awesome.
Yeah.
But he's too old now. He's in his 70s, so I think that's a little bit too old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's exciting because Darkseid is a huge villain. And we'll see if who they got for the role was good. Maybe it is Weird Al from Teen Titans Go. But we shall see, and we'll see if somebody lets loose that and accidentally is like, oh, did I say that out loud? And then we're like, oh my god, be talking about
Did
it. So,
I say that? No, that's
Jaleel White for Darkseid. Let's go. No, just kidding.
Hey, did I say that? Okay. I just saw like there was like some kind of like video out there, like these different actors auditioning for the role of, I forget what role it was. I just like watched this.
I think it was for Jurassic Park because I know
Jurassic
Bill
Park.
Hader
Yes,
was, like,
yes,
doing Al Pacino or whatever.
Yes, yeah. It was like an SNL thing, I think, from back in the day. I was like, that's
Anyway.
hilarious. Anyway, that's all we got for DCU Daily tonight, guys. Lots of big stuff. It's an exciting future for the new DCU, and maybe we should do like Darkseid in the DCU as like a Fancast Friday idea, because we certainly don't know yet who it's gonna be, but apparently they already got an idea. So, and whether it's Steve Urkel or otherwise, I'm sure it would make for a great episode of Fancast Friday. Speaking of which, we are going to be back live in a few minutes with Fancast Friday, so do look out for that. Hit the notification bell if you've already subscribed. That way you know when we're live. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that button down below and hit the like button while you're at it if you enjoyed the show. Get in the comments and tell us what you thought about today's topics. And of course, if you're not joining us for Fancast Friday, then we hope you have a great weekend. But if you are, then give us a few minutes. We'll go refresh our drinks, go use the restroom. You do the same. And then we'll be fan casting the DCU's Alfred, as you guys voted on Fancast Friday. Until then, John, I think it's we've been live long enough on DCU Daily, so we'll leave it there. We hope you guys have a great weekend, and of course, as per always, what does James Gunn say?
It's another project that's been blessed from the beginning.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see
Right there.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
Now you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Here we go.
Victory mine. Ask me how am I doing? I'm telling you, really, I'm doing sublime. I never wait in a stewardess line. I just go do it. I'm moving my time. Really had nothing to do with it. How am I moving? I'm moving like you wanna shine. Follow my lead. Don't listen to lies. I had to put me all on the line. That's why I know that victory's mine.
I prefer Jared Leto. Hunka hunka!
Hashtag blessed is what I was trying to say before I was rudely cut off. But again, fuck Jeff Snyder and fuck Tom King.